Welcome to the iGEM Opening Weekend Festival. Local people solving local problems all over the world using the power of synthetic biology. Please welcome your hosts. Joining us live from Brazil, iGEM producer Guilherme. Live from France, Global Ambassador Coordinator Carolina. And finally, from Australia, Director of iGEM Podcasts, Zishan.
Woohoo! Hello everyone, welcome!
Hey! Hello everyone! Vamos começar o show!
Hello Susamen, welcome to iGEM 2021.
Good evening from Australia.
We are so excited to start another day of the festival. Yesterday was great. We enjoyed telling you all the stories from iGEM, experience this year, and imagining the future.
For those of you just joining us, we are the hosts of this festival and the storytellers of all the sessions. When you see Guilherme on your screen, he will be talking about the past, telling the amazing stories of previous iGEM teams. I am here to tell you about the present and your journey in the iGEM competition this year. And Zishan will take us on exploration journeys imagining what the future of synthetic biology and iGEM holds. A future that you will pioneer using the experience and values from the iGEM competition.
And remember, don't worry if you missed anything. All the videos are instantly shown at the box below this screen. Right here or here. Somewhere here. You can go back and rewatch everything.
But still, you should do that later, because today we have another amazing lineup of stories, characters, and meetings. What's coming up today, guys?
In my stories, we'll be going through some of the project promotion videos from teams last year. Amazing videos. Later on, we have another iGEM finalist on stage, Vilnius, Lithuania, the undergrad grand prize winner from 2020. They will tell all about their journey, their experience. Then, I'll be talking to high school iGEMers, followed up by a session about the most dreadful deadline in the iGEM competition. Something that binds all of us. The final countdown to the week freeze.
That name brings me a lot of memories. I'll start with a session in human practice and why it's important to be trustworthy in our work. Then we'll be answering some frequently asked questions with Tracy from iGEM HQ. Then we have 3 amazing sessions from the community, how it's like being an iGEM judge, discussing the mentorship program this year, and finally the session with most guests, 9 iGEM alumni will be talking about their experience organizing iGEM meetups and collaborating with other teams. Stay tuned.
Whoa, it's going to be an amazing final day of the festival. Actually, today I only have 2 sessions, so I'll be able to enjoy it all. We'll start off with some reflections from Megan Palmer on why iGEM is a testbed for global technology development. And at the end of the day, a very, very exciting session. Last year, we threw out all our DNA samples, like just everything, gone. So what will be the future of distribution? Join me, Vinu, and Drew Endy to find out more.
Amazing, super cool. Stay tuned.
So let's start today. The first session joining me now is Megan Palmer. She has been involved with iGEM for many, many years. Hello, iGEMers. Hope you're having a lot of fun at the opening weekend festival. And here's another really exciting section for you. We're joined by Dr. Megan Palmer. Megan, thank you so much for joining me. And today we're going to talk about iGEM as a testbed for global technology development. Thank you for joining us, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, it's such a pleasure to be here virtually. This is one of the great bits of being able to connect all over the globe.
Opposite ends of the world.
Exactly. Very dramatically different time zones.
Yes.
And so I'm Megan Palmer. I've been involved in iGEM for a long time. I'm currently at Stanford University as the Executive Director of Biopolicy and Leadership Initiatives, and I'm associated with the Department of Bioengineering here, but also the Institute for International Studies. And I have had a variety of roles with iGEM over the years, starting off with being one of the photographers, actually in early days when I was in graduate school at MIT.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was really fun. That's a great way to see the excitement of iGEM in its early years. But then I've been involved with the Human Practices Program, directing that for many years, involved for a decade, as well as the Safety and Security Program. And now I'm chairing some of the iGEM Insights efforts to begin to learn from iGEM as this test bed for global technology development, as well as just global communities working together.
Yep. So let's dive right into the questions. You mentioned that you're the co-chair of the World Economic Forum on Global Futures Council on Synthetic Biology. How has your work with iGEM changed the way you think about the future of synthetic bio?
Oh, wow. This is a huge question. I feel like we might need to be here all day talking about what I'm learning from iGEM. Because I still feel like even after more than a decade of working with iGEM, still very much learning from the iGEM community. And that's what brings me and I think others back is this idea of testing out our ideas and testing out the ways we work together. And you mentioned the World Economic Forum. That involves another group that alongside iGEM is trying to think about what is synthetic biology as a field and a discipline, as a community and as a way of working. What does that mean for our future? And there's a number of these different groups. And so I can't say that there's a few things that probably stand out as being some of the big lessons from iGEM, although I reserve the right to revise these over time, which is the first is at the end of the day, it's really about people. It's about, what we dream, what we need to dream, what we're worried about. How do we dream when we're worried about all these things? And technology ultimately, depending on how you see it, it's just one lens by which we confront the types of worlds we want to live in and which we don't want to live in, and how we work together to make those futures, right? Because technology, we always often think about technology as widgets, but technology is really about the ways in which we apply our knowledge. And if we're applying our knowledge, ultimately, it's really about for what purposes. And so as part of this, that lesson in terms of it's about people, it's also about our values. It's about centering those values. And this is one of the activities we're doing in this World Economic Forum, thinking about revisiting the promises and potential of synthetic biology in the past and today and in the future, and thinking about, humility and solidarity and sustainability and equity, and what do those actually mean, and how have we done? And I think iGEM is always does this. It reflects all the time on its values in a variety of different ways, and thinking about that of how do we center respect for each other and for the planet as we are working. So that's a big one. It's about people. Yeah. It's not necessarily about technology, although if you think the big picture of technology is again ultimately about how we work and how we know. The second one I'd say is really important is it's the power of working together. And I don't know who said it, but it's commonly said that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And yeah. I think iGEM, it is that experiment in how do we dream and do together with people all over the world. And it's experiment also in, what happens when you put not only just put tools in many people's hands, but ask people to build tools for others. Right, that's an incredibly powerful experiment in saying we can go farther if we work together. Another big one is that we talk about the future, but the reality is the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed, and you hear that a lot of the time too. Yeah. Right, you might have heard of that, but what does that mean, right? Often our challenge in thinking about the future, it's sort of a way to abstract from really thinking about the present, right, and the past. So it's really about, where can we find inspiration, or where can we contend with what we're doing? Then I'd say the last one, which I don't want to forget about, because I think a lot of these issues we've been talking about apply to a lot of different types of technologies and things that aren't technologies, right, that are just about how we govern and how we, how we learn and how we teach, right? They're not necessarily about technologies. But I think the last one is that if we're engineering living matter, right, that matters. And what I mean by that is that I do think that there is something very special about learning to engineer biology as a technology that already works and has taken over the world, and that we are a part of.
Yeah.
And I think we're still wrestling with what that means, but it biology in some ways forces us to be humble, right? Because it already has billions of years of lead time on us, right? It's
just a few billion.
Yeah, right. We're always learning from biology, right? And we do that in other areas, but as we learn about biology, we also learn about ourselves and the world that we are part of. And it builds this type of and demands a type of awe, right? At just the awesome potential and also about the long time scales and geographies. So those are big lessons, but iGEM is my favorite place to learn them.
So we're talking about iGEM as a test bed for global technology development. So what tests do you think are the most important to run? And what goals should we be pursuing within this test bed?
Yeah, this is a huge question as well. We're biting off the really big pieces of iGEM here. But even the example you just referred to of a team sort of failing by only doing achieving bronze and then getting the grand prize. In my view, that's not failing. It's actually succeeding, definitely. Right? And then even part of our conversations within iGEM and in the iGEM community is about actually our our goals and more tests that we want to run. And that's encoded in part through the criteria of the competition, right? Which is like, what should count as success? And so I think that if iGEM is a test bed, what it means is it's in many cases, a microcosm of the broader world in which we're operating. And in early days, I think that was, it was true that it was a microcosm, but it was also kind of a safe microcosm where it seemed like the stakes were kind of low and you could experiment with some things and try it out, see what happened, and reframed what worked. But now it's some ways it's a test bed, but it's also really a community unto its own, right? The stakes are broader because there are iGEMers all over the world, and the things we do, they really matter, and they're impacting people and communities and ourselves every day. And so I think that the tests we need to run are really about whether or not we're achieving in our big goals as a community. And so those tests are, if we think back, it's like, we're testing out if we can engineer a world in which we really want to live and that supports us and other living things, right? That's the big test, right? Can we collectively work together to do that? And it's always been a central part of iGEM. And it's part of like, can we build with biology in this particular way? And now it's about learning how we build with biology in a number of other ways. And so what are the big questions still? Like, can we work together? Right? And so that's really like, can we build the technology for collaboration? Can you use a part from another person's part? Can you use an idea? Can you test an idea from another team, right? So those are, can we actually build common repositories and data, right? Like that's actually, can we work together? Can we not need to own everything ourselves, but can we share, right? The second one is, can we actually learn together, right? Yeah. Can we actually assemble those lessons? Can we provide those times to reflect? Another one is like, can we dream together? We talked at the beginning, like it's about dreaming, but it's also about recognizing that people have different dreams, right? And so how do we negotiate between those different dreams, and when can we hold both? Some of the big ones that I think were always really important in terms of testing is like, can we be radically inclusive, and not just inclusive, but equitable, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So can we actually test what approaches bring in more people in a way that they can participate and benefit from and be inspired by? Another test is, can we actually build an example that other people will follow, right? Like, are other fields going to look at synthetic biology, and are they going to take a cautionary tale, or are they going to take an inspiration of a different way of working, right? That's a test. And then these are abstract, but they force you to say, this kind of zoom in and zoom out, right? Like keep the big goal in mind, but then test out like the specific implementation. Like if we try this new way of collaborating, does it actually lead to more collaboration? And then doing that in many places and creating the space to learn from all of these different things we've done, and the posture to say like, maybe it doesn't work, and that's okay.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that you see in, again, a very big question. What are some of the issues that you see in developing technology that works in the extremely diverse context of the world? Should we be focused on democratizing access to the tools of technology development, so local and context-specific technologies can be developed, or somewhere else?
First, the word democratizing, I think you're beginning to look at it here. It's really important to look at the details of what we mean by democratizing, right? It doesn't mean just developing something somewhere and then giving it somewhere else, but like, how can we actually be generative and develop things in many other places? So there's different ways to participate, and how do we enable many people to participate in a variety of different ways? And so I think, ultimately, iGEM talks lately about like solving local problems with local people all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. But it's really about like solving both local and global problems with people all over the world. And I think what iGEM teaches us is that we don't want to we don't want to wash away all the diversity. Like that is, the biology teaches us anything. It's a, diversity is powerful. It's the way you learn and experiment and get so many different options for the way you do things. And so this is where I think, iGEM gives a great example. You can do so much more, right? The reality is like, there are different types of knowledge, different types of resources, different types of experiences, different types of geographies, different types of biology in many other places. And so we can learn from all of those, but also, there's a common software here, right? Like we are part of this world that we are creating. So there's a balance that we need to respect in that. And we can also be inspired by like building that common knowledge around the things that enable us to leverage diversity. And again, this is really abstract, but ultimately, I think, this is why iGEM is a global test bed. It's saying, like, what does it look like when you ask many people around the world to solve problems they think are really important, right? Some of those problems are really local. Many of them are very global because the things that we're thinking about are global scale challenges. And so we need to be doing both. We always have to be doing both. And that's why we have to work together.
Wow, that was such an exciting session. I had a lot of fun. And it's so cool to think about iGEM as a global testbed as a testbed for global technology development. And now I'd like to invite Carolina on. Carolina, hey.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so now actually I'm super excited to be talking about one of my favorite topics in iGEM, the human practices. We all know it. We all know that iGEM is not just about being in the lab. It's about like really sharing with the world what we are doing and seeing how the world affects what we are doing. So now I have this really nice session with Hilary Sutcliffe and Kevin Chen. So in this session, actually we have two amazing guests and we are going to be discussing mainly about the human practices. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things of the iGEM competition, this sense of how the world affects your project and how your project affects the world. It's just amazing. So hello Hilary, hello Kevin. I'm really thankful and really excited to be here with you. Good. So actually, just a quick introduction to our guest. So Hilary is the co-director of the TIG Tech Initiative, co-chair the World Economic Forum Global Futures Council on Values, Ethics and Innovation, and runs Society Insight, which is a non-profit which aims to, and I cite, reverse engineer innovation from the needs of society rather than just create technologies which are in an eternal search for a home. So actually it sounds really exciting and really like related to what we do in human practices and so. And we have Kevin, who is one of the co-chairs of our iGEM Human Practices Committee, and as well is an iGEM alumni from Team Queens from 2011, an entrepreneur and co-founder of Hyacinth Bio and community biology organizer at Rico Bio and the Global Community Bio Summit. So as you can see, we have amazing guests right now. And well, let's get started. So, I mean, Hilary, you have done a lot of work regarding trustworthiness and how the community can achieve like this trust. You have done work in technology, governance, and with all your experience, when you look at the iGEM community, what comes to your mind? Like, especially like how people do the projects, how they, let's say, like do this part of the human practices. Do you have any ideas of first things that come to your mind?
I'm very excited actually about the iGEM community, why I was so honoured and interested to be part of this. I sit in the UK on the synthetic biology governance subgroup. And so since about 2015, I've been sort of thinking about these issues in relation to synthetic biology and gene editing. So what comes to mind for me and why I'm excited about iGEM is about your human practices, is really how you're embedding this thinking from the very first stages of education and actually the practice of synthetic biology. So that is really exciting, because I don't see anything globally. I don't see anything, even, certainly in the UK or the US, there is a sort of guiding principles and practical advice that you give with iGEM. So I'm really excited about that. And I think you can do much more with that, in terms of bringing your alumni together and perhaps even doing research and leading the way, iGEM community leading the way in governance. I actually don't see why you young people actually shouldn't tell, the old people what to do. I think there's some real opportunities for you there. But some of the things, I have got a problem that is not of your making, but that is of others' making, particularly things like language. So, genetically engineered machines, So I do a lot of work in artificial intelligence as well at the moment, and robotics. And, we're so excited about machines as if they are somehow superior to human beings. And this fetishizing of machines as somehow superior, and human beings and emotions and feelings, creativity, they're almost designed out of the system because we want to create this machine, when in fact the human being is the most incredible creation that we can get, and we will never hope to even begin to do. So there's two reasons why I find that tricky. Partly, it doesn't do you any favors, because when you tell people what you do, it really is quite a scary thing. It's not really this easy. And it makes people feel that you are feeling superior, that you are somehow, demeaning human nature. And I think that's not a good thing. And I think also a lot of these disciplines today use this really distancing language. It's really, like management and economics, just to push us all away, just so that they can carry on getting on with their own thing without messy human feeling-y things getting in the way of, their vision. I think this is problematic for you. But also, even with sales and funding and the final product, it suggests a precision, a reliability, and a consistency that actually we all know you can't really achieve just yet. I mean, you can in some areas. Aren't we rather grateful for various aspects of biology that's being helped with the vaccine production, for example? But I think it just gives the wrong idea, the wrong language, and makes you look a little bit too arrogant. So I would say to the iGEM community, can you think of some better language? Can you just find a way of describing this for us all, which will actually be more engaging than we've got at the moment?
Part of what we ask teams to do as the Human Practices Committee is to engage in stakeholders. And stakeholders could be people who are affected by your technology, and that could be companies, it could be politicians, it could be like people in your community. And when you're approaching these people, there's always that question of like, how do you go about doing that? Like, do you go in and say like, oh, I'm the synthetic biologist, got this crazy cool technology. It's all about like Lego DNA, like, cloning everything. Like Hillary said, that's scary. This can be scary for some people. I mean, some people love it. Some people like the idea of like, reducing things, and that's great. But if you want to, ultimately make the world a better place, or have people understand what your technology actually is, or, avoid the issue that we've seen in the past, like every iGEM understands, like this whole like GMO, non-GMO like argument, like that's been like this balloon in our face for the past 30 years of the existence of this field almost, right? How do we get around that? And the way that you choose as iGEMers, as you guys go out and do your interviews or talking with people, the way that you choose to do that is going to be part of what builds that trust, part of what builds our entire field, and part of what a lot of people will see maybe in their first experience of like talking with people who do synthetic biology. I always have this funny joke with the Human Practices Committee where like one of these students is going to become like the president of the world, or prime minister or whatever, and then they're gonna have to make these hard ethical decisions, and hopefully they'll remember their days back in iGEM of like, oh yeah, this one thing I learned in my education, like that we'll do this thing instead of that other thing which is unethical, for example.
What to do now? Like if a team approaches to you, like what would you think would be better, like the best approach of this?
For the last 3 years, I've been doing this project you talked about, on trust. Now it's trust and governance. And it was interesting. The guy who initiated the idea had worked in GM, and his question was, we really tried. We really thought we tried to be inclusive. We really thought we jumped through every regulatory hoop and hurdle that, we possibly could with liability regimes and the lot. Why did no one trust us still? So that's what we've really been thinking about. And part of the work on trust was, I spent 8 months looking at trust literature, and honestly, it was a nightmare because they didn't agree with each other at all. Nobody agreed what trust was and what it was this, was it with that. Nobody agreed on that. What they did agree was sort of what we're now calling signals of trustworthiness, the things that you do if you're considered trustworthy. And we've distilled these to 7 things. And I'm just going to pick a couple here. Firstly is your intent. So I would say, as exactly what human practices is all about, what is the intent of your product, your work, and how is that aligned with the good of society? So the biggest cause of distrust in technology is this belief that people are putting the making of money or scientific kudos ahead of people and planet. And lo and behold, when it goes wrong, that is always what's happened. But secondly, too, respect. This is part of the problem with the GM, synthetic biology, machine, this technology sort of bubble that it lives in. It's not respecting the intrinsic value of nature. I actually speak to some quite, strong-minded environmentalists, and I resisted this intrinsic value of nature. I'm saying, look, let's just get people to think about this. They don't have to, but actually that's what people are most concerned about, that you're so busy trying to make your tech work so that you can make some money or you can get the research grant. There's no respect for nature there. And I think those 2 things, thinking about respect for nature and people and making sure that your intent and purpose, has some value to society is a great starting point.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because I really think like sometimes when we are doing science, and even like when we are doing our iGEM project, we are like, yes, I, biologist, have this idea and here it goes. When it's really like, oh, hey, is it like helping the community? Like, is it really like useful? Is it understandable? Is it really going to change the world? Or like, is it just a part of something that eventually will change the world?
I think also, the only thing that's changed the world is passionate people with a fabulous idea. I've still also used that great quote of Henry Ford. Well, if I'd have listened to my customers, I'd have given them a faster horse. And so, it's of course both of those things too. It really is both of those things too. We don't want to squash people's passion either and squash people's vision either. But I think that, there's a really interesting person I spoke to in the food area. And she said the biggest problem she faces, and she's very, very well respected, as is the organization, is the lack of humility of the scientists and technologists, because they're so convinced they're right.
But the humility, and I think this it makes me think of kind of questions that iGEMers might be going into when they approach different people who have different ideas of like, what does it mean to respect nature, even like, or what is trust? Like you went to talk to a lot of people and they all have different definitions of trust. So even that could be like on its own, like an iGEMer's first question to some of the people they might be talking to, and then for them they can relate, of course, their project, how it matches, what somebody else's definition of what it means to respect nature.
That's very interesting, because actually, my trust drivers are working really well, these signals now, because the 2 of the others are inclusion. Because a lot of the time, and a lot of the work we did was in governance rather than just, the technology development. But actually, when people have been included in the development, in the governance, in the design, they are much more on board with that. And also, most importantly, you find out most of the problems that are going to smack you down in advance. Why not? What's not to like about that? And secondly is openness, because I did an analysis of all the public dialogues, which included the UK Synthetic Biology Dialogue in 2010. And people, I think people are so sensible. They're just so sensible. They know it's going to go wrong. They really do. They know it's going to go wrong and that you're going to pretend and you're going to promise all this stuff and it isn't going to work. But they want to know that that somebody has thought about this in advance and has put some governance in the way in case it goes wrong. rather than just assuming perfection. And I thought that was quite good, because actually we act as if it's all going to be perfect. We don't actually plan for failure, we plan for perfection.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, so in general, even for example, the human practices, when people I would like want me to explain like how it works, at least my way of seeing is like somehow like a feedback. Like just you do something, like you have certain idea and you get some feedback from the people for who is that idea actually, and then okay, I have this in a project, I should maybe change this. I will go again with a community or with a person or someone, receive more feedback, and it's like a constant feedback over the time. And actually sometimes it makes you realize that, hey, I think I first thought that this idea was great, but then I thought like when I received this feedback, it was like really not maybe such a good idea.
But I think it takes some courage, to go in front of people who might be completely opposed to your project, and actually understand and listen and build that trust in them, right, too. And that's something else that, for me personally, at least, and even as a committee, we challenge students to go out and try and do that. Like, understand people, like listen to what people have to say about your work and about your field, and don't be afraid of even people who have like criticisms, who hate your project. Don't take it personally, but you can. It's an important step of like learning, right, and about building that trust, like understanding what's going on in their minds will understand what's going on in other people's heads when you talk to somebody else.
The biggest, I think, most important finding of probably my last 20 years, because I have been doing this for 20 years, and of the Trust Project, is the importance of listening to the opinion and valuing the opinion of people whose opinion you don't remotely value. That is the hard bit. Nobody does that. But I think that is so important, this idea of competitive listening, because you will find out things that you don't know, and you will and particularly in terms of early warnings of problems. A guy who also was involved with that, Tim Fell from Synthbase, he talks about how early warnings of problems is what he runs his company to listen out for. And they have weekly meetings just so that, because they don't spot something in advance, because it's always there. I'm just doing a little trust toolkit now, which I can send you guys. And one of my little images is this cartoon cliff walk of how, you think you're fine and everything's fine. Suddenly the ground's gone from under you and there you're gone. Because there is always someone telling you the problem that you don't want to hear. Always. In every, a lot of thinking about early warnings, about problems, about how irresponsible innovation happens. Somebody's been telling people this for years, but they just didn't want to hear it. It's always there, but you only get that by listening and taking seriously mad people in your mind.
And well, we are unfortunately running out of time. Maybe actually I would like to ask both of you if you have any final message or something you would like to say to the teams, maybe Hillary.
Well, I mean, one of our other trust drivers is honesty. And one of the most difficult things is to sort of be honest about problems. So I am going to propose to you a sort of an award that which I think would be quite a near miss prize. So maybe just celebrate your near misses, celebrate it when you get wrong. And I love your President's Award for doing that as well. I think it's great that you're doing that. I think
one of the quotes that we toss around the Global Community Bio Summit crowd is from a guy named Anurag, and he said, "Biology is hard, but people are harder."
Thank you a lot for your time. It has been really nice to hear you and to have this chat with you. Thank you very much for your time, for your comments. I'm sure the iGEM community that is watching us right now is also super happy and inspired, and I know that everyone has a lot of ideas in their mind right now.
Well, good luck to everybody.
Yeah, good luck everyone.
Well, that was an amazing session talking about trustworthiness, talking about the human practices. If you would like to keep talking about this, remember to join the Zoom room. So actually, if it's the first time you're joining us, you couldn't join us yesterday, like you now have to make a decision. Either you stay on the live stream or you go to the Zoom room to talk with our guests. Well, in this case, normally I will go to the Zoom room, but I will stay because in the next session I will be with Guilherme. Hey Guilherme, how's it going?
Hello. Yeah, you will be my guest in the next session. Super excited. Yay. Yeah, in this next session we will be talking about something that was new last year, but we have been talking about for many years, that are using videos to communicate your project. We will be talking about promo videos for iGEM teams, something that you will need to do later on this year. So yeah, you can either stay with us on the live stream, talk about it, or join the Zoom discussion. So Nemanja, can you start the countdown? And here we go. 10, 9,
9, 8,
8,
7,
7,
6,
6,
5,
5, 4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
1. So for our next session, we will talk about one of the biggest changes iGEM went through during the last year. We will talk about videos. It's a new way to communicate our science, and of course, a lot of people were already communicating their science, communicating what they were doing through videos. We saw this in the iGEM community as well, but now everyone had to deliver a nice video and share it with the world. Now, we will have I would like to introduce our next guest, that is, okay. sorry. Actually, we will have a message from my okay, I forgot it, Nemanja. It's fine. Yeah, Nemanja is yelling at me, especially because now he will be talking. So I would like to introduce Nemanja.
Last year, iGEM teams created 500 videos. Videos about their projects, their teams, about the challenges they are solving. Why is this still a thing? Our idea with videos precedes the pandemic. For many years, teams have been presenting their work on wikis, posters, and live presentations. We live in 2021 now. Videos are the new media. And we have grown. There is now 350 teams, and your projects have gotten better and better over the years. They've become more needed and more useful for the world. We need you to show it to everyone. Not just the scientists, not just our own community. Everyone has to see the work that you do. So if you go back a few years, there's been more than 3,000 iGEM projects by now. You probably want to search through them and find out more. To watch a presentation and see the wiki, you need at least an hour per team. And to really see what all iGEM teams are doing, you would need months to go through all of this. So we have project promotion videos, a 2-minute introduction to your project. There are 250 of these from last year, and teams really exceeded expectations. They show the amazing variety of projects, challenges, and cultures in iGEM. There are Zoom videos, animated videos, explainers, action videos, all kinds of content. To watch all of them, you only need about 8 hours, so you could binge watch it over a few days. This video is not just about having fun and being creative. This is the official introduction to what you want to achieve this year. It's the first point of contact many people will have with your project. It will lead them to your presentation video, to your wiki, where they can find out more. So start thinking about what you want to show. We don't have many limits as to what the video should be. It's really up to you. But some of you might be thinking, but we are scientists, we don't know how to make videos, Nemanja. But there are people that do, people close to you. My own background is in biology, but I've done videos as a hobby for a long time. In my iGEM team, I did lab stuff as well as videos. There are people like me everywhere. Go out to your universities and try to find them. Because iGEM is multidisciplinary. There are scientists, biologists, engineers, programmers, designers, artists, humanities students. You will learn from them, and they will learn from you. At the end of the day, all of you come together for one purpose: your project. Your project is too important to have it done only by one group of people. Include everyone. And have a look at all the videos from last year. I'm sure you will find some inspiring examples.
Thanks, Nemanja. That was an amazing talk, and it's super interesting because it's such a great change on how you communicate science and SynBio and iGEM. And so it was amazing to see what the teams did last year. And to talk about this, I would like to invite our another guest, aside from Caro. Justine, hello. So Caro, you are one of the hosts. People have seen you around a lot those past 2 days, but you watched a lot of videos last year, right? Because you were a judge. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, probably you have already seen my face. Like before this, I just had the session of human practices, which was really nice. But yeah, so as you said, last year I was one of the judges for the promotion videos, and it was really nice. I think I watched around 40 videos, something like that. It was crazy, but it was really nice. I got to it's like really nice because I got to know in a short time about the projects of a lot of things. I think like before, it would have been like really difficult to get to know the project, so many teams in such a short time.
They are a very interesting way to get in touch. This first point of contact with a team's project. So it can be like a hook. You watch this short promo video, and then you get interested, and then you go to their wiki and you see the amazing science they did behind that. So it also has this power of this first spark of igniting. Is the right word? I don't know. Starting the fire and making people want to see and learn more about one specific project. And it's also a very interesting way to go outside our bubble, because you have this very, very short video that is easy to watch, but at the same time, very inspiring, very powerful. It delivers a great message. So people that don't know what iGEM is or what an iGEM project is, they can see one of those videos and get really interested and want to learn more about SynBio, about iGEM, about that project. So this is very, very powerful too. And hello, Justine. You are my other guest. You are working on the creative team this year, right? And I know that you are working with videos. This is the reason that you are here to talk with us.
Hi guys, my name is Justine, and I was part of the UNSW iGEM team in 2019. And this year, as Guilherme said, I'm working in the iGEM Creative Productions team as the video producer. So I help Nemanja with producing the videos for iGEM.
So I know, Justine, that you have some videos that you selected to share with us from teams from last year. And well, let's watch them with our audience.
Ready, guys?
Mold is used industrially, all over the world. Instead of requiring a lot of fossil fuels to produce chemicals, mold can convert sugars and corn into the same kind of chemicals. They can even make enzymes naturally to replace harsh chemicals that are used to produce everyday products such as soda and food additives. But there is a problem. Mold is difficult to work with. It grows in long, thread-like structures, and when it grows in tanks, it can intertwine and become dense and difficult to work with. This is the problem we aim at.
I really like it because it's always a challenge to make it visual, what you are doing in a microscopic way. And they've made it visual through themselves.
So this video is from the UNSW Australia team last year.
We're bringing corals back. Introducing Protect Coral. The Great Barrier Reef is Australia's natural wonder. Home to 3/4 of the world's coral species and thousands more marine organisms, it is one of Earth's most biodiverse ecosystems.
I think the thing that I liked about this video is that it starts off as like, it sounds like a story.
Exactly, like it tells you the story and it makes you feel like, oh no, poor corals. And even like the fish that are, they look like Finding Nemo, and you're like, no, poor Nemo is losing its home, you know.
The next one I think is a bit different again.
Backtail is a tailor-made approach. We are engineering E. coli to give it the ability to specifically recognize, bind, and lyse pathogenic bacteria.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. It has a different tone, right? It looks more like a documentary with a narrator, and it's very interesting too. Like it's a different vibe, but delivers really well the message, and it's very clear.
At the start, you get hit with the facts. So like I think that's their hook. It tells you exactly like hard-hitting facts that why you should care about this. So this one is from KSA Korea.
Hi, we're Team KSA Korea, and we're trying to find an alternative and environmentally friendly way to recycle paper.
You guys might be familiar with Harry Potter books.
You can easily notice the difference in quality of the paper, especially in terms of texture, with the rougher and coarser texture of the recycled paper.
There are 3 things we need to focus on, which are excessive paper waste, detrimental effects to the environment, and low quality of recycled paper.
To add on to the point, recycled paper does not...
Yeah, I think this video shows really well the power of explaining stuff, not anything, not just science, through videos. Because when they show the different papers, it's very clear. Like you can sit down with me and explain why you need to improve recycled paper. You can explain. Like I can understand this after 10, 15 minutes. But if you just show me, like this is Harry Potter. This is how it looks like with this paper. We need to improve this.
Yeah, so I think out of the videos that we've watched, from all the hundreds of videos that I watched from the video universe, I think the best videos that came out were the ones that told a story, the ones that had impact on me, were the ones that like it didn't matter if it was high production, if it was low quality or not, but as long as it told a story about your team, about what you're doing, something that a person like me, even from like all the way to the other side of the world, can connect to, those are the best videos to do.
Yes, and it made me realize something. When I did iGEM, we didn't have to deliver videos, and I don't have anything like this. And this is in 10 or maybe in 5 years, it would be a great memory of your iGEM team. Like you can see you interaction with them, and you can carry on this for 15, 20 years. And I realized, oh, I don't have a video of my team. I wish I had a video of my team. So let's watch the last video of this session.
So this video was actually the video from the undergraduate team that won the best undergraduate project, the grand prize. So this is from Lithuania.
Fish and its products have always held an important place in the human diet. It has been calculated that an average European consumes over 20 kilograms of fish products per year. During the last 50 years, this figure has doubled. As the market demand for fish rapidly increases, a growing need for densely populated closed-system fish farming appears. Such a method of raising fish assures sufficient amounts of oxygen and other necessary nutrients. However, this artificial environment evokes a stress response that weakens the fish's immune system. Moreover, the ever-recirculating closed-system water becomes an excellent medium for the bacteria to grow in. One of the most common genera infecting the fish are flower bacteria. Meredase offers a comprehensive solution to the emerging problems in this type of farms.
I mean, I have watched this video a lot of times, I'd say. Especially like during the Jamboree. I mean, they were like passing like a lot of times. But I think like it's really nice. It explains to you like really well the project. I don't know, it's like really, how to say, even the music helps like for it like to be like calm, and like just someone is explaining you really nicely like their project without using like so much technical stuff and not making it boring. It's just like even relaxing, like somehow. I like it a lot.
Yes, and it's impressive how much information they were able to share with us in 2 minutes. So and we've seen this in other videos that we watched today too. But this is very impressive, and it's a very challenging task. Like if you have 15 minutes to tell a story, it's actually much easier than telling the same story in 2 minutes, because in 2 minutes you need to be very careful with every single word you are going to say and deliver a lot of information in every sentence. So this is a challenge, and I think a lot of the iGEM teams were able to accomplish this, and this is a great example. And actually, Justine, we didn't plan this in advance. Like those are some videos that you selected. But actually, our next guest is Vilnius, Lithuania, telling a little bit about their journey during the last year Jamboree and about being an iGEM finalist. So I'd like to thank you both for this amazing session. I had a lot of fun watching some of those amazing videos that iGEMers produced. I know that people, if people are interested in seeing more of those videos, they can go to the video universe. They can check it there. And yeah, thank you for joining. So now I forgot to add, and Nemanja just remembered me that we have a very special message from an iGEM alumni. Sorry for the mistake again. Talking about best iGEM teams. I'd like to welcome Ronit.
Hello, iGEMers. My name is Ronit Langer, and this year I have the amazing privilege of leading the incredible Phoenix project. The iGEM competition, and by extension, the iGEM community, is incredibly good at the design, build, test cycle. Every year, iGEM teams around the world generate hundreds of prototype solutions to both local and global problems that have the potential to change the world. Every year, a small fraction of these projects continue, either in an academic setting, as seen in a paper published by the Research and Academia Committee last year, or as a startup, as demonstrated by EPIC. The overarching goal of Project Phoenix is to increase the number of projects that live on beyond their initial iGEM cycle. In this way, we hope that we, the iGEM community, can move forward in making engineering progress on these pressing issues. One way we hope to accomplish our goal is by making iGEM data more searchable. You cannot build off a project you cannot find. You can already see a beta version of this dataset at igem.org/Phoenix. I encourage you to take some time to explore and learn from the teams that came before you. Even if you have already selected a project for this year, try to find teams that had similar goals and pick up from where they left off. The Phoenix team is here to support you. If you have any questions about the project, our data, or how we can help you this year, please reach out to phoenix@igem.org. Good luck with the 2021 season. We know you will be able to create amazing things, and we cannot wait to showcase them on Phoenix.
Thanks, Ronnie. It was super interesting to hear the Phoenix project starting to fly. I remember the first time we discussed this, I think it was 2018. We discussed it on Ambassador on-site meeting. I don't remember. Like, it was the first time that I participated in a discussion. I do know that the discussions around this project have been around for a long time. I don't know the entire story, to be honest. But I know that this is something that the community has been talking a lot through the past years. HQ, iGEM Foundation has been discussing a lot during the past year. So it is incredible to see this happening, to actually access and see the amazing work. So I'm super excited to see this project. It's going to be amazing. Thank you very much, Ronnie. It was a great message. So for our next session, we will be receiving some guests that were iGEM finalists during the first virtual Giant Jamboree, telling a little bit about the story of their project, the story of their team, and the story of, well, being an iGEM finalist, talking to thousands of people, sharing their project. And, well, I will let them tell the story because I was never an iGEM finalist. I want to discover, to hear how they feel too. So hello, Yeva. Hello, Egli. Thanks for joining. I'd like to go back in time around a year, maybe a little bit more. I'd like to hear how you started. How did you join the team? How did you hear about iGEM? What were your expectations at the opening weekend festival in 2020? Does the story start?
So I don't know. Basically, for me, becoming an iGEMer was kind of a dream since the first course of my bachelor degree. So everyone knows here what an iGEM means, what is synthetic biology, and so on. So basically, it was kind of a dream when I just started the university, and so I enrolled it here in iGEM. And luckily, me and Yela is from the winners team, so I think the dream came true. And yeah, I think that iGEM is kind of experience.
Also, I thought that a great example of a perfect iGEM team it's not a secret, is 2017 team who also won iGEM. So for everyone, I think this team was like an inspiration, and we always tried to read their project. We admired this project, and we tried to make just, if it's possible, to make only a piece of this project, because after this first grand prize in Lithuania became such an amazing thing, it's really an honor to be the part of this team, I think.
Oh, that's awesome! It's very, very interesting to hear how the different iGEM teams inspiring people that will build on their work and will contribute even further to the progress of Symbio and Symbio in the region. It's very interesting. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about the history of iGEM and synthetic biology in Lithuania.
The first time Lithuania attended in iGEM was in 2015. We made a Call It Clock project. This project was about self-killing bacteria. It's like a timer for bacteria to kill itself. Then in 2016, Lithuania tried to treat phenylketonuria, and in 2017 we won a grand prize, and in 2018 it's interesting, I think we had two teams, overgrads and undergrads, and overgrads started a startup after this year, and this startup is successful and it's really famous in Lithuania.
So let's travel back on time again. It's the beginning of November 2020. You already developed your entire project. You are getting ready to the iGEM, to the virtual Giant Jamboree. What was your expectation? What were you thinking? Were you like, oh, we are going to win it again? This project is awesome. How was those moments before the virtual Giant Jamboree started?
Basically, how to put it, we didn't thought that we would be a grand prize winners. We thought that we were gonna get some kind of medal, maybe silver even. and we just, I don't know why we thought that like that. We just didn't know how much we put effort and work into that, and how much other teams and the judges will appreciate it. And later on, when I remember that exact moment when we see the top 3 liners and there was our name. So, and I think it was like a cold shower, cold shock thing.
I remember when we were planning to watch top 3 annotation, we were just looking at it because it was interesting who will get this who will be those nominees. We didn't even think about our name at all. So I think it was so nice to win grand prize, but it was even more nice to be in this top 3, because it was even more unexpected, I think, because it's just hard to explain, and also we haven't expected that, because we said that it's enough one grand prize, I think, for Lithuania. And one smart man said to me after winning grand prize that win grand prize for one time, it can be coincidence or something, but winning grand prize for 2 times, it's something. Maybe I don't know, we have a great university, great scientists, or maybe great genes. I don't know.
Yeah, and it also inspires other people from countries or regions that you usually don't see in the finalists. For example, I did iGEM in Brazil, and we never had a team in the top 3. And seeing your example is something that inspires, like, oh, it's not only a few people, a few universities that go and become finalists and can win big prizes. Is anyone that develops great science, great symbio, great engineering. Anyone can be in that big stage. So it's very, very powerful, very inspiring, your story. Before asking about the final day, the final ceremony and all that, I would like to ask a little bit more about your journey through the summer, through the iGEM season. Is there any memory you have, anything like when, like 50, 60 years from now, when you are old, talking to your great grandchildren and explaining that you won this big prize in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic? What is the memory that you will remember and ask them?
I think the summer was maybe one of the most beautiful time. It was very stressful and so on, but still we developed and built so many friendships and so on, and we just lived in university as a family. So I think it's that built the friendships, the memories, and the adventures with others. I think it's the most valuable thing that I bring from the iGEM.
Yeah, I was thinking that it's really hard, and you just praying when it will end up, and we were praying for this wiki freeze to end, and we were saying that then we will sleep and so on. But after all this ends, we start to think maybe it would be nice to create our grad team. Maybe it would be nice to continue our project and so on. So you really wait for this to end, but when it ends, you really would like to continue something from this iGEM, because it's really an amazing opportunity and an amazing experience to have in life.
Now, let's go back to the last day of the Jamboree. It's Sunday. You know that you are a finalist. This is something that was new, because in other years it was announced in the final day. So it was announced a bit earlier. People could watch your videos. You had interviews that were shared during the final day. So how did you watch the last day, the closing ceremony of the Jamboree? How was this experience?
So basically, during we had a quarantine in Lithuania, so we couldn't meet by all team and so on. So we just decided that we can just meet in groups and so on, and we keep the chat alive via Discord. So basically, everyone watched the celebration of that ceremony, and I remember when there was a announcement of grand prize winners, and we watched with Yeva, and we saw that we won. Also, it was kind of a glitch in the announcement ceremony. It didn't show that we won. It was some kind of I don't know, misunderstanding, because the other groups didn't understand if we won or not. So me and Yara are crying just because we're winners, and we didn't know how to put all that emotion, all those emotions and so on. So we hugged each other and we cried. And the Discord is just pinging with those messages. Did we win? Did we win? What happened? What's going on? Are we winners? Are we not? So basically, then I wrote that we won. So yeah, basically it was some kind of explosion of emotions and so on. It was a different kind of range and so on. And we decided to meet in the city, yeah, just to be outside and to just for a short time to celebrate with everyone that we are winners, because it was kind of sad that we couldn't meet with everyone. So yeah, it was some kind of I don't know. It's kind of like I think if Lithuania would win an Eurovision, just in the yeah, it's some kind of like that.
What happened after it? Like, how was the reaction in your university, in your family? Like, were you in the newspaper? Did you meet the president of Lithuania? How did that go?
The day after iGEM was really intense. There was a lot of interviews, calls, and so on. We needed to write a lot of articles to answer a lot of interviews online and on paper and so on. So it was quite intense week, I think. Also, we've met our president, but only online because it was quarantine and so on. So I think in Lithuania, the scientific community we're really celebrating our achievement, and because I think we understand how much effort does it take to make this kind of project.
Amazing. And we have most of the iGEMers that are just starting. This is the first day of the iGEM season. They are watching us right now. So what is the advice, the message that you would like to share with them?
Try to prepare for a huge amount of stress, and don't forget to have fun with that also. I don't know, it's just a kind of opportunity that come along once in a lifetime. So you should, I think one of the most liked stations for me is what can you give for iGEM and how much you can give to iGEM. iGEM gives you back. So basically it really depends on you. How much do you want to get from it and how much you want to give to it. So my advice would be like that.
The more you give, the more you get, I think. So it's just give everything what you can and you will learn a lot of, I think, and it's also important, I think, to not only to work, for example, in laboratory group or in IT group or where you belong to it, but it's also important to work on different groups. For example, everyone in our team worked at least in 2 groups. Every lab team member worked on HP. Every IT member worked with math model. Others from IT or model teams were trying to learn how to purify plasmids and so on. And I think this was a great collaboration between all this team. And I was really happy to see how people gain a lot of knowledge in different areas. So yeah, that's all I think.
In the end of the day, it's an extremely powerful story because it's not just your story. It's the story of many iGEMers from your university, from your country that build this community together. And it's impressive to see what you achieved as a team and what you achieved as a community in Lithuania. So it's super inspiring. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, can aim for something similar in their town, cities, regions, state, country, I don't know. And the more local people solving local problems we have, more problems in the end of the day we are solving, and more global problems we are solving together. So thank you very much for joining. It was amazing to hear your story and to know you a bit more. Thank you. That was an awesome session and an amazing message to everybody just starting their iGEM journeys. And I'm sure you are super excited, but you also have a lot of questions, doubts, and this is exactly what we will be talking about in our next session. And to talk about it, to introduce it, I would like to call back Caro. Come back.
Hey! Thank you very much, Guilherme. Exactly. Now, like we have talked about iGEM finalists, now we're going to talk about this year and how to fulfill all the requirements of 2021. But well, let's start with the countdown, but now let's make it more challenging. Let's do it in German. I am supposed to know German. Of course, now in France, I am confusing French and German all the time. So, and I know you know a little bit of German, so...
My grandma told me, but it was 20 years ago. Probably I would just embarrass me in front of thousands of people right now. But yeah, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see.
Okay, then. Zen.
9.
8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1.
Sorry.
I am so sorry for all the German speakers right now.
Yes, we just murdered German. Sorry.
Hello, iGEM teams and all the people that are watching us right now. Welcome to this other session of the Opening Weekend Festival. So for this session, I have a really nice guest. So we have Tracy, who is the director of the iGEM competition. Hi Tracy, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. Really excited to talk to teams today.
Yeah, I'm excited also having this conversation with you, since we are going to actually go through something that is super important during the iGEM competition, the requirements for the competition. So, I mean, I am sure you get a lot of questions from the teams, like year by year. Yeah, I am sure. So actually, so the idea right now is that I will read to you some of the frequently asked questions from the teams, and then you can give an answer to them. So let's start. So the first question is, what are the changes for 2021?
So this year, the big change for medals is for the gold criteria, you're going to have to fulfill 3 of the criteria instead of 2. The rest of the criteria have stayed the same as last year, allowing teams to fulfill medal criteria without having to do lab work, just in case you're still unable to get into lab. You can still participate fully and still, achieve a gold medal, even without lab work this year. But that's really the big change. A few other smaller changes that you may have noticed are we've had more deliverables this year. Those are actually things teams are already doing, and we just never had them collected in one place. So the big example is the team roster. All teams had to fill out the team roster, but it wasn't listed on the deliverables page. So we've added that in. So it's no new work. It's just acknowledging that, these are things you have to do anyway, and we've put them all in one spot on the deliverables page.
Nice. And other question also that comes a lot is, what does convince the judges mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get that question a lot. And so one of the most common questions we'll actually get around that is we'll have teams who email us telling us, we've done all of this work. Will this count towards a medal? Will this count towards this criterion? And we can't answer that because it comes down to if you have been able to actually show the judges during the Jamboree that you've completed that work. And so by convince the judges, it means you need to clearly document the work you've done. And so that's on your wiki, it's in your presentation video, it's in your project promotion video, it's on your poster, it's in the judging sessions when you're talking with the judges. It's really clear communication of your project is key in convince the judges. And so that's what we mean there. And so that all comes down to your project documentation has to be really, really great. We really recommend that you have a few folks outside of your team take a look at your wiki and tell you if you've got any problems there or if there's anything that's not clear to them. This would be a really great way to connect with other teams and get a little extra help in terms of making sure that your documentation is as clear as possible.
And another question is, what's the difference between proposed implementation, that is a requirement from the silver criteria, versus proof of concept, which is a requirement from the gold criteria?
And so the idea for those is proposed implementation is really meant to be talking about how you would actually implement your project, in the real world, for lack of a better phrase. And so, what are the questions you need to ask? Who are the stakeholders you need to consult? And, really talking through the details of how you would actually take your project from concept to actually implementing it. This does not require lab work at this point. This requires thoughtful consideration and really well-documented reasoning. And then proof of concept is really the next step. And that's why it's one of the gold options. And it really should be showing that you've actually carried out that proposed implementation and that you're showing that the thing that you're creating, the genetic device you're designing, the software tool, the software that you've built actually will work as proposed, and that you can actually take it to the next step. So for a lot of teams, that will mean having some sort of lab work for proof of concept would, most likely be really helpful for that. It's also why it's just one of the options for gold, and it's not a requirement. It's one of the 7 options you have that you can choose to fulfill the gold.
Good. And also another difference between a silver and a gold criteria. What's the difference between collaboration versus partnership?
Great. So collaboration is really meant, can be, sort of a one-time interaction with another team. Maybe they helped you debug some software. Maybe you helped a team troubleshoot a genetic design. Whereas a partnership is really meant to be sort of a really long-term, collaboration between you and another team, your team and another team, that really has an impact on your project overall. And so it should really be an extended partnership that, requires a lot of effort, a lot of work. It's not just a one-time conversation. It's really something that without that partnership, your project would not have succeeded. And so it's really meant to be sort of a much stronger connection between 2 projects.
Yeah, I must say that I really like this new partnership thing. When I participated in iGEM, that was not a thing. You had only collaborations. But this new concept of partnership, I think it's really, really nice, actually.
Yeah, we were really excited to introduce it last year with, the idea originally came from, what if we have a team who could get into the lab and we have a team who could not get into lab? Well, maybe they could form a really strong partnership, and the team that could do the lab work could then carry through a lot of the project considerations for the team who was unable to get into lab.
Definitely. And our last question, how important is the wiki freeze?
The wiki freeze is incredibly important. You're going to definitely be hearing from some teams later today. They're going to be talking about their experience with the wiki freeze. It's actually something that kind of ties all of iGEM together. All iGEM teams throughout the entire history of the competition have faced the wiki freeze. So this is the deadline where you cannot edit your wiki pages anymore. It means they are frozen in time. And it's, really important, and teams often have made small mistakes or have big problems leading up to the wiki freeze. And so it ends up being really this pivotal deadline that sort of ties the whole community together. All teams will remember their wiki freeze experience.
Always. Yeah, I remember, I will never forget my last wiki freeze, when I was in 2016. So we were editing things at the last minute, and we wanted to really upload a picture, and we were trying in the 2 last minutes to upload a picture, and then we were able to do so, and we were yelling, screaming, super happy. But actually that was something super risky to do, because you can just mess up everything and you're gone, you're done. Do you have any other common mistakes that teams usually do, so that the teams that are hearing us right now can say okay, I should take this into account not to do it?
I think what you mentioned is exactly right in terms of the biggest mistake, is waiting until the last minute. This is true for all of our big deadlines, not just the wiki freeze. This is, for the judging form, for the safety forms, for all of those things that will probably take more time than you expect. I think one of the biggest problems we've seen is teams will build their wiki page in a separate piece of software and then, want to bring it over into the team wiki, which is completely fine and allowed. But that can take some time to figure out what files you need to actually upload, so that when you go to save it, all of a sudden it looks like a big mess and you can't read it. And you're like, but it looks great in this piece of software we're using, and now it doesn't look good. And unfortunately, if that happens, the day of the wiki freeze, there's not a whole lot we can do to help. So in terms of the wiki, in terms of making part pages as well, anything that, you think is, we're just going to copy some stuff over, it's never that easy. It will take a lot more time. So really, strongly recommend any of the deadline days should really be about proofreading, about really small edits, tiny fixes. It shouldn't be, oh, we haven't done anything, let's upload our entire wiki today, or let's edit the judging form for the first time today. So I think those are really the biggest problems that we've seen in the past. And as a result, if your wiki is completely broken and unreadable, that can have a really big impact on whether or not you can win a medal. The wiki is a bronze medal criteria. And so those are those are always the stories we hear that are, terrible. And then, other stories that we've had is students perhaps editing the same page at the same time on different computers. We really recommend only one person edit one page at a time, because you will overwrite someone's edits. The computer will only save one of them. And that is true for the judging forum. That's true for the safety forum. That's true for any of the things that you have to edit for iGEM. You really need to make sure that one person edits, saves, and then another person can then edit after. And then I think one of the other problems that we'll see a lot of the time is changing the standard URLs, the actual address for your website page, right? So we provide teams with the standard URLs that they have to create and use for the judging form. And if you edit those, and even if you just change the capitalization of one of the words, it no longer will link correctly to your judging form. And that's always one of those problems that you might not realize until the very last minute. And that can cause a lot of undue stress and a lot of problems. And so, again, with all of these things, we really recommend you take a lot of time to review everything together as a team. It should never be one person's responsibility to do the judging form. That's a lot of pressure to put on one of your teammates. And that would really stink if they messed up and then, the entire team is mad at them that they messed up the judging form. So, we really recommend this is a team activity. This is a team competition. All of these items, all of these deliverables and medal criteria should be team activities. They shouldn't be the responsibility of one single person, especially when it's a really big responsibility like the judging form.
Yeah, guys, you're hearing it here. Like, really follow this advice. I strongly, as a person who participated in iGEM several times, lived 3 wiki freezes, really follow this advice. Don't come later to say like, oh, nobody told me, because you're hearing it right now from Tracy. So really follow this advice. And well, Tracy, thank you very much. I'm sure that the teams right now are appreciating this advice a lot, and I am sure that many of them will still at some point of the season send you an email asking you for more questions.
Absolutely. Never be afraid to ask us questions. That's, I think, the parting piece of advice I would give in this segment is every year we have teams who tell us, oh, we made this mistake, but we didn't know who to ask, so they didn't ask anyone. Ask your ambassadors, ask iGEM headquarters, reach out to us on Slack, send us an email. We are here to help you succeed. So don't be afraid to ask us questions, even if you think it might not be the best question and you're like, oh, this is a silly question. Ask it anyway, because usually the answer is online on one of the pages and we can point you to the right answer. So never be afraid to ask us questions. That is our job, is to help you succeed. So, just keep that in mind as you go forward. You're going to have questions. There will probably be a few problems. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you.
Great. So, Tracy, again, thank you a lot for this, and to our audience, thank you a lot. I'll see you in the next session. Well, that was a really nice session with Tracy. I'm sure that many of you may still have some questions, so be sure to join Tracy in the Zoom room of Stay in the live stream, where now Guillermo is going to be talking about iGEM high school teams. Hey, Guillermo.
Yay, I'm back. Yeah, I'll be receiving some guests to talk about the experience of doing iGEM in high school, and I know you had this experience, right, Caro?
Exactly, I would say that it was a life-changing experience, because that experience that I had in iGEM in high school was what made me to want to be a scientist. So it was really nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, very inspiring. Awesome. So now you need to make a choice. You either stay with me and talk about iGEM in high school, or join Tracy in Zoom to answer any questions that you may have. So, Director Nemanja, let's start the countdown.
Yeah, but we should now do it like we already did it in English. Now let's do it in our native languages. So let's do it in Portuguese.
Okay, that's a good idea. Nemanja won't understand anything, but Nemanja, do your magic, and we will be fine. Okay, so Nemanja, start the countdown. 10,
9,
8,
7,
6,
5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
And here we go.
Vamos!
Before we go to our guests, Nemanja just remembered me. Nemanja talks a lot inside my head. Sometimes I'm sleeping and I hear his voice in my head. So anyway, I forgot to add something. Let me add it very quickly. If you want to, we had an amazing keynote session with Janet last year doing the Giant Jamboree. I watched it and it was amazing. I'm sure a lot of you watched it and enjoyed it. If you didn't watch, or you would like to watch it again, you can check it here. And hopefully I'm pointing. And Nemanja is saying that it's here. Okay, so here you can watch it. Click here and go to you can watch if you want Janet's session. So let's go to our guests now. Oh yeah, Nemanja just asked what is Janet's session about. Actually, it was about she has been involved with iGEM in high school since the beginning. She has been through the transformations of doing iGEM in high school. She shared a lot of her amazing experiences and impact iGEM had in her students, and a general vision about doing iGEM in such a young age. So good point, Nemanja. Yeah. If you want to watch that keynote, if you're interested in iGEM in high school, or learning about the story of iGEM, how iGEM changed through the years, it was an amazing session. You can check it somewhere in my screen that I don't know right now. Yeah, here, I think. Yeah. Okay, so now to our guests. Whenever we walk through the Jamboree and see all the amazing projects iGEMers develop every year, we always feel that we are in the future. For me, the future is not thinking about flying cars or colonizing other planets. It's actually seeing the projects that are there. Even though a lot of the projects that are there would help a lot in colonizing other planets. And the most impressive part, at least for me, of iGEM, of the iGEM teams, is seeing the amazing works developed by high school iGEM teams. It's incredible how the advancement of technology allowed very young students to develop groundbreaking work, to develop tools, engineering life that will become actual products in the future that will impact the life of millions of people. So high school iGEM is always incredible and outstanding and super inspiring for me. And I'd like to introduce our next guests. So we will have Marsad, that kickstarted the first high school iGEM team in Pakistan, and Mia from Great Bay, that was the winner of the Grand Prize in 2019, if I remember correctly. I was in the Jamboree, I enjoyed the presentation, but I have been in several. Yeah, Nemanja is confirming. Yeah, it was in 2019. Great. So welcome. I'd like to hear a bit more about your experiences. How did you hear about iGEM the first time? How was joining your high school iGEM teams?
Yep. So I guess the way we heard about it, for some of our friends, we're going to an international Model United Nations for a competition. And we were kind of like, that's kind of cool. They're going somewhere for a competition. They might win something. It seems fun. We want to do something, but we want to do something for STEM. So me and my friend Shahir Niazi, we sat down. We started researching different competitions in the world, like international science competitions, and we found iGEM. iGEM seemed pretty. It seemed like a pretty interesting thing. And he heard someone talk about it at this STEM camp that was going on at a university earlier that year. So both of us were like, "This seems fun. This seems both of us are into biology. This seems like a pretty interesting thing. Let's give it a shot." And I think that was how we started making our team. And we talked to the school, and we got them on board. And yeah, pretty much it.
So for me, I was a huge biology lover, and my team that year was composed with 20 students from all around the world, but they are all Chinese students. And my team leader at that time, so I was looking for some competition that can actually enhance my experience in biology field and also research fields, because that is basically my first research project with the team, and I was looking for this opportunity, and I found my team leader Cindy in that year, and she was organizing this whole team, and she organizes, and we became acquainted to each other, and finally we got together and come up with a team GrabSC. Yeah.
Marsad, you were talking previously with me about the challenges that you had to overcome to participate in iGEM. How was that? How was doing that in high school? And do you think it was worth it?
I would definitely say it was worth it. I think worth it because again, it ended up changing my whole career. Technically, I think we were talking about how I was going to be a doctor, and then iGEM. I think if I was to reduce this whole my career change into one decision, it would probably be that day when I decided to participate in iGEM, because it showed to me that if you love biology, if you love this sort of science, and you want to be creative with it and you want to create new things, then synthetic biology and biotechnology is one of the best things you could do. I realized being a doctor really was not for me. And the challenges were, I guess, because Pakistan is a relatively, I think, underdeveloped country in terms of, STEM, and, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done when you're making teams like this. It's unheard of for a lot of, because you have to invest some money into, to participate in iGEM, and to get your school on board for that requires, a lot of convincing. So the first challenge for us was creating a whole draft for the school, a proposal that, all right, this is why we think we should participate in iGEM. This is why we think iGEM is a interesting competition for us to be, a part of. There's no other team from Pakistan right now, that high school team from Pakistan right now that has been part of this. We think we could make a big difference for people and kids who are going to come after us as well, because they might look at our team like, oh, they tried it and we should probably try it as well. So the school was on board with the idea, and that I think got done with. And the other challenges were mostly finding a lab, because our high school does not really have labs that are well equipped enough to do some of these experiments. So it was just challenge after challenge. We tried to tackle it. We had no mentor for both the years, so there was no mentor. There was no one exactly to help guide us. So most of it was just self-learning and figuring things out by ourselves. There were some people who helped us along the way in the lab, some lab attendants and some PhD professors who were would answer our questions or show us certain things. But I think the challenges are also what made it worth it. Really, they sort of really inculcate the whole experience is the challenges, right? You learn to overcome them at this age, and it is a privilege, I think, learning these things at this age and overcoming these challenges, because if your gel electrophoresis goes wrong when you're in your 20s, then you kind of know how to deal with it, right? So but
yeah, that's awesome. It's very, very inspiring to hear those stories of starting a new team, creating this space for other people that will come after you. I did this in my undergrad. I didn't do this in my high school. I started the team in my university, and it's awesome to see a few years later. Again, I'm showing that I'm getting old, but anyway, it's good to see them like 5 years after I did participating and doing an amazing project. And they are not directly related to me, but to feel I feel very proud, because it's the team that I started somehow, and they are around. So yeah, to create this, to be this pioneer in a given environment is very, very Interesting, and that's a great story. And Mia, I would like to ask, because the last time I saw you, actually, you were on stage in front of thousands of people from all over the world. So how was this experience? How was sharing your work with the basically with the entire world?
So it's absolutely a splendid experience for me because I was like a very self-closed scholar who just spent my whole time in like my own academic realm, and I never went out to seek probably sharing and this kind of experiences. But like adapting, well, the concept of spider web, that's what we are doing. iGEM is just like a huge spider web that connects like people with different fortes, but they're raw science lover. And under the huge umbrella, we were able to use our own like specialties and to contribute to the iGEM community, to our team, and also generally to the whole scientific community. Well, shifting to like the final experiences. So in 2019, our team won the grand prize, and we were very surprised about that, and we are proud of that. But one thing about our team is that we do not have phenomenal supports in terms of academics, in terms of like the postdoc supports. We do not have that. And what I want to emphasize is that although we have like such great work done, obviously, but what I want to emphasize at last is I want to tell the world, well, the work we've done and the work we've done by ourselves. So for example, there's like a month and a half, my partner and I, we spent probably 8 hours a day in the lab and just figuring out how to do the experiments without any, well, actually we have supervision, but they're not focused on like the specific DNA strains that we are doing right now. So when I was standing on stage and presenting our project as the ending speaker to over probably 5,000 people from all around the world, I could actually see us crawling in the fertile soil of synthetic biology. We planted a tiny seed of dream, and eventually we make it burgeon and bloom. So at that moment, I suddenly realized that we are now one of the centers of the science web. And I felt indeed entitled to share experience and ideas to the people from all around the world who are listening. So it's definitely a pleasure, and it's an honor to be standing on the stage and to just communicate our effort. And it's very interesting, very fun. So the whole communication part, I think is way better, it's way worthwhile than the research part, because you got to communicate with different people from all around the world who came with a diversity, with different acceptance, different ideas, perspectives. So to me, the most valuable and memorable experience is definitely the Giant Jamboree. But I heard that although like since 2020 we have been like the Giant Jamboree has changed to online format, but still I think you can communicate across the globe. It's very fun.
I have a final question for both of you. We have several people in our audience watching this right now all over the world that they are in high school just starting their iGEM journey. What is your message for them?
I think simply put, and it might be a little cliche, but you can't go wrong by participating in iGEM, right? There's nothing you can do wrong. It's the competition is more than about I would say getting a medal, or even though that is of course a goal that you should probably definitely strive for, but the experience you achieve, like attain from running those, running around in your lab and doing work, talking to, experienced members, understanding how, things work around you, and, trying to broaden a specific, your community's understanding of science and how you interact with your community then to solve different issues and, talk about different things. That all just really gives you a sort of experience I think you can't really get from any other thing you might do. And if you get to, then I think doing iGEM in your high school is definitely a privilege. I think if you do it properly and you have a really collaborative and successful team, then the experience you get from that is like considered like your first semester if you're doing synbio or applied biosciences at a university. So that would be helpful for you. But again, as Mia mentioned earlier, you get to network with so many different people, and you have to treat iGEM like this sort of, this amazing web that interconnects so many different people from different sciences. And you don't have to necessarily be a biology fanatic or, be super good at biology to be part of iGEM. iGEM is a very multifaceted sort of competition. You can be into computer sciences, you can be into, physics, you can be into arts, and there will probably be a place for you in a specific team. iGEM is just about, a very diverse community where different scientists, different fields come together to expand the field of synthetic biology. And that is what it is at its core, solving local problems, solving local solutions. And it's a chance that you should not miss out on, I think. Yep.
And I totally agree what Marcel has said. It's like definitely iGEM opens up a lot of new opportunities for you, and also just enjoy the process, enjoy every moment you spend with your collaborative teammates is very important, because through these communications, it might opens you to like a different understanding of yourselves. And also, besides like the medal, like the awards, it is more important, I think, to really like hone your skills in biology and also in different skills such as machine learning, computer science, and also you can learn a lot of things that you will probably not know in your in your high school career. So just cherish the moment and learn from it, and probably you can get an internship and fellowships, a lot of different opportunities through the experiences.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Mia. It was an awesome session. Thank you. Have a great day. That was such a great session. It's always super inspiring and super powerful to see people doing iGEM, doing SynBios at such a young age. And to talk about our next session, I would like to call back Caro again. Hey, Caro.
Hello again. Hello for the 10th time.
Yeah, again, you will be my guest again, not a host this time. So it's still a session with me. So if you want to talk more about iGEM in high school, you can go to the Zoom room, or you can stay with us to talk about the most terrifying aspect of iGEM, the sleepless night of the week freeze. So we will be talking about the challenge and the stories of the week freeze. So, Nemanja, can you put the clock on screen? Okay, thanks, perfect. Let's start the countdown. 10, 9,
10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's it. And Nemanja is telling me that I'm terrible at this and I can't count say one number per second. But okay, you get it. If you are still here, we will be talking about the week. Every iGamer went through this moment just before the week freeze, where you have a lot of stuff that you would like to add and you are regretting that you didn't start doing this a little bit earlier. And this is always a moment that we remember after we finish our iGEM journey, the night just before the week freeze. If you don't know what the week freeze is, it's the day, or actually the night, or it depends on where you are, because the Earth is not flat, unfortunately, where the wiki simply freeze, and you need to add everything just before that moment. If you didn't add something, then it's gone. Of course, you can later on, after the Jamboree, update it, but you need to deliver everything by the week freeze to be judged by the judges during the Jamboree. And this is always an extraordinary moment of our journeys as iGamers. It's a moment where you test your friendship with your teammates, where you test your skills on creating a useful and beautiful wiki. And to start our conversation, Caro, I know that you have a great video, a great story of the week freeze. So, Nemanja, can you please play Caro video?
I do. My team is going to kill me for playing this video. I love you guys. Mwah.
That's so cool. I can totally relate. When was it? Because you participated many years.
Yeah, it was in 2016 actually, and we were of course doing everything at the last minute, and we were trying to upload like this image that was like basically a summary of our project, like in the main page. So it was super important to have it there, and there were like 2 minutes left, and we were able to upload it, and it was like magic. So it was really fun.
Awesome. And I know that you did iGEM several times. How was the week freeze experience in different years? Because I did too, and at the beginning of every year, I always think like, oh, this year, everything will be ready a week before the week freeze. It will be totally fine. And it never works, of course.
Of course it never, yeah, like, I mean, it was the same, like, I will always say, like, yes, now we will have the wiki ready with a lot of time of anticipation, and even so for this year we even had like a timeline of how our project was going to go during the year, so we were wanted to have everything ready by September, and of course that didn't happen. It was, I think, like, actually year by year it was more stressing, like the wiki freeze somehow, but well, it was a really nice experience anyways.
So, and to talk more about this very unique experience, I'd like to invite some guests. Jonglin Chen, he will share not only his experience, but the experience that several teams in China go through, a very special event. I need to say, when I heard this story the first time, I got a bit envy. Probably we should start doing it here in Brazil or anywhere as well. And I would like to call, again, a team that you already met, Vilnius, Lithuania, to talk a little bit about their experience of doing the week freeze last year during the pandemic, and yeah, they will tell the story. Welcome, guys. So how were your experiences with the week freeze? Did you had everything ready and planned in advance, and then you could sleep calmly during that night?
Every iGEMer could say that they couldn't sleep that day, and in our time the wiki freeze was like at 6 a.m. I think. So we were all up until the night, and we all like were stressed out. Well, the 5 hours or 6 hours before the freeze, it was all like fine. We were still doing like a little bit of stress. We have to do this, we have to do that. We have like 3 hours for this thing, 1 hour for this thing, and then when it gets closer to the deadline, everything starts getting more stressful, and you start doing more mistakes. And yeah, I guess it's a natural experience for every iGEM.
Yeah, I think the same as you, Guillermo. We planned our wiki freeze, like we thought that we will do everything in time, and we planned that we will finish that page by this day and this page by this day. And 2 days before the wiki freeze, we changed like a lot of things on the page, a lot of the structure, and we felt that it's not going to work, our plan that we thought that is going to work. So yeah, so we did a lot of changes during the last 2 days, and it was a very sleepless night and very tiring 2 days after that.
So at what time is the week freeze for you? Because it's on the same at the same moment for everyone around the globe.
Yeah, it was 6 a.m. I think 6 a.m.
Oh, 6 a.m.
Oh. Yes, I remember quite well that we came into our like office, I guess you could say, at 9 a.m. something like that. And we planned everything like to the minutes. Like for that, we're going to spend like a half an hour on this one, an hour on this one. And it was planned like till the wiki freeze. So yeah, we didn't sleep for 24 hours for sure.
So how was the last moment, like the final countdown just before the week freeze? How was this moment?
So we had a lot of like interesting stories about this one, because at the last 5 minutes, we still had a lot of things to do. One of which was we actually uploaded our integrated human practices page like maybe 10 seconds before the countdown run to 0. So yeah, if we would have not done that, we wouldn't have gotten the bronze medal, and that would have been quite sad.
Yeah, also about the last seconds, I remember everyone was standing up and like preparing like to count like 5, 4, like the freeze is coming. And I was still in the corner uploading the the notes for the benchling in the weekly reports, like what the lab did. And I remember the team was like 3, 2, 1, and I was still uploading the zip files, and the system lags, and I pressed upload, and I didn't know what's it gonna be like. I think the response came out after the Wikifree, so I wasn't sure if it was still uploaded, but I think it was all good in the end.
Yeah, and also one more, I think like maybe 5 minutes or so before the wiki freeze, we were updating our software page, and 2 people at the same time were editing that page for some reason. I'm not sure why. And they, I think, saved it at the same time. And one of those people that were editing it were not editing the wiki like throughout the whole process. And I think that he maybe did some kind of a mistake. And because of that, we had like 2 side menus for the whole time until we could edit the wiki once again after Giant Jamboree. So yeah, we looked at that page. It was really funny for us.
And in the end, you were nominated for best wiki, right? So congratulations. And what is your advice for people that are just starting iGEM, that are doing iGEM for the first time? They are hearing those stories. Do you have any advice or tips for them?
Try to prepare as much as you can, but just know that you won't fit everything in time. So just get ready, I guess, emotionally, that you will have to work a lot on the Wikifreeze day.
No matter how much you plan, you still change some things, and you want to make it to the site as perfect as possible. So even us, we are telling the new team that like plan your time effectively. Like you can do the design at the beginning of the summer or something, but I guess we tried to do the same thing. We had like, we set plans, like we tried to finish our wiki design at like the end of the summer. We had plans, but then I guess iGEM happened, and and then the freeze happened. Yeah,
it's an interesting lesson about deadlines and time optimization. So it's part of the iGEM journey. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. It was awesome to talk to you. See you around. I'd like to invite Zhongling Chen. He is today. He is a member of CCAC. He's a former iGEMer. He's an iGEM alumni as well. And I would like to ask him a little bit about his experiences with Wikifreeze and his experiences with CCIC. So can you tell us a little bit more about what is CCIC?
The whole name of CCIC is Conference of China iGEMer Community, and that is the iGEM Alumni Associations in China. And we help to everybody in the China, the iGEMers, to know more about iGEMs and help them go through these competitions and help the alumni to build up their associations and help them projects to get into the industry, to get into those industry.
And I know that you have a special event just for the Wikifreeze. What is this event?
Yes, they haven't called the Coffee Night. It is an annual event before the Wikifreeze night because everybody is rushed to the Wikifreeze and they stay away all night long, and they trying to put out their code, their data, their features, and of course they need some coffees to make them a week. So the CCIC helps everybody in China to got their own coffees, and we will pick up 8 to 10 teams of the China iGEMers and to support them with 100 yuan pocket monies, and they could use them to buy coffee.
That's awesome, and it's very interesting because this is such a crucial moment of your iGEM journey, and you are going crazy and sharing this with other iGEMers from your region and connecting with alumni that also know how this experience is. This is very, very powerful.
Yes, everybody thinks, oh, it's not only I staying await here, then everybody is rushing to got their coffee monies and they are ordering coffees. And in China we are really like to rent meeting rooms before that Wikifreeze. Every members sitting in these rooms facing the computer and putting everything inside. And in our, in some WeChat groups, we will share our photos about everybody facing the coffee, facing the computer, and working hard there. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm not the unlucky guys who only have the data just before the wiki freeze.
That's such a great initiative. That's such a great idea, and I think it demonstrates a little bit of the amazing impact that CCIC has in China and in the iGEM community. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it was such a fun session, and I remember a lot of my personal stories. I hope you watching us enjoyed, and I hope you, Caro, enjoyed it too. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it was definitely super nice.
Yeah, I can totally remember. Oops. You can go. Yeah, the problems of doing stuff live. Yeah. What I was about to say was that I remember the first time I went through it, and I just remember those stories. And then after you just finished, it's very relaxing because you accomplished something, like you finished a task, and then you can just relax. But not everyone is relaxing, right, Caro?
Exactly. As the wiki freeze is done, teams start to relax, but who start to get more work and stress are the judges. So actually, to talk a little bit about what it is to be an iGEM judge and to hear about the responsibilities and so and experiences, in the next session we are going to be talking about the point of view of the iGEM judges. So if you would like to keep talking about the wiki freeze and so, be sure to join the Zoom room or stay here with me in the live stream so we can talk with some of the iGEM judges. So let's start the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Amazing. Hello everyone, welcome to this session of the Opening Weekend Festival. Actually, I'm really excited for this session because it's about judges. For many teams, judges, it's maybe the people to whom they are going to present their project at the end of the iGEM season. Maybe for some teams, they are the people they are the most scared of because of this reason. But here we have 3 people who are going to talk about what it means actually to be a judge. So first, if anyone has ever wondered what it is actually to be a judge and what does that judge do, we have Paul James, who is part of the judging committee, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what it is to be a judge. So hey Paul, how are you?
So I think a lot of the teams think that judges are just there to, decide who wins what medals and what prizes and ultimately who wins the competition. And obviously, they're a huge part of that. That's what they have to do during the Jamboree. But I think for me, what really being an iGEM means is about being a mentor to the teams. So teams have spent, whether it's a summer or all year, working on some really amazing projects that are really close to their hearts a lot of the time. So a lot of teams do regional projects or projects that really affect them and the world around them. And what we want judges to do is really listen to those projects and then try to offer advice based on their own experiences. So, we have judges from a range of different backgrounds, so we want them to bring their own experience and see if they can help with the teams to really push that project forward. And I think one of the key features of iGEM as a whole is training the synthetic biologists of tomorrow, of the future. And judges are a huge part of that. So they're helping to train them and make them the best prepared that they can be for when they go off and start implementing some of these amazing projects. Because we don't just want to see projects that end when the Jamboree ends. We want to see projects that have got some real legs going forward and they can really be used in the future. And I think, if you have a set of really good judges helping that, and asking those right questions and making those right comments, then I think it can really help a team to push their project forward.
So then who can be a judge?
So there are some eligibility criteria around age and where you are with your undergraduate degree. But apart from that, we're really looking for anyone who has an interest in synthetic biology and helping the next generation of synthetic biologists to achieve their potential. So anybody working within sort of any of not just synthetic biology. So we're looking for engineers, people that have experience in humanities and the arts. And I think one of the key things as well is we're not just looking for academics. So obviously it's great we have a huge academic committee or a huge academic presence as part of those judges. But it's great to have people from industry and just other professions that can bring that well-rounded set of knowledge to a team. So not just looking at it through academic eyes, but people that are working in industries such as biotechnology, any associated professions, so art, design, humanities, all of those things that can turn a project, from just an idea and an iGEM project into a fully well-rounded real-world solution to whatever the teams are trying to address.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Paul. And also, actually, so we have other two guests that can tell us a little bit more about what it is to be a judge. We have Rami, who has been judged for several years since 2012, and actually in 2019 he won Best Judge. And also we have Hannah, who was judged for the first time last year, but she even won also the prize for Best Judge. I would like to let's start with Hannah. So you have experience in iGEM, and after iGEM you were even ambassador also. And what made you decide to apply for being judged last year?
Well, thank you. The reason I decided to be a judge last year is that I've been around iGEM and after iGEM for a really long time. Not really long, but it's 4 times, nothing compared to Rami, of course, but I've been there for around 3 years, and I wanted to understand the entire iGEM experience and go through it as a whole because I hadn't had the opportunity to participate as an undergrad. And so I think that Paul mentioned a lot of the important things about a judge's role, and mainly I was really passionate about the role that they play in mentoring the team and the fact that they are not just evaluators, they help provide a fresh perspective. And I was ambassador to Africa, and I come from Africa, and in many times when I got to judge last year, I got to direct a team's attention towards the fact that why shouldn't they consider how to, for example, make their product capable of being distributed in Africa, for example, or have they considered if they were to try and ship their product to Africa, is it suitable or not? And I felt that this was a perspective that I wanted to have present at the Giant Jamboree. And I also felt that I wanted to go through this experience, and so I applied. And I don't know how, but I got the Best Rookie Judge Award last year.
What about you, Rami? What made you decide to be a judge and to even continue year by year being judge?
Yeah, as I mentioned, so I have been attending for several years, and the first time that I attended iGEM was 2011. My drive was simply curiosity. But when I started serving as a judge, and then you get to know how it is things that are from inside, and that was I felt that was rewarding. It was a heavy work, as you also mentioned. It's before the event you have to deal with the wikis. During the Jamboree you have to get in touch with the teams, follow their posters, listen to their presentations. But what I found was actually it's this being submerged in iGEM it's not about exactly a week, but for that 4 or 5 days was extremely rewarding. Not to mention the judges' room. I mean, there were fantastic people sitting there. You're sharing your days together, breakfast, lunches, and evenings, and then the discussions that happen around those tables. iGEM just becomes an excuse almost for having those fantastic discussions. And then it was just an attraction point. I mean, for me, it was just natural to serve as a judge. And to my surprise, in 2019, I was rewarded as Best Judge. Which was also, I really enjoyed that title.
So the first time judge experience is always somehow intimidating because you're getting exposed to this whole new aspect of iGEM that you weren't really involved in before, and you're getting this whole new role. And you somehow feel that it's really big responsibility, because in your hands you're looking at the entire work that a team has put in for throughout the iGEM season. And especially if you've been participating in iGEM before, you understand how much work that is. And so you already handle that with a lot of care, and it's very intimidating. The issue with it being a virtual giant jamboree is that at first I was really scared, because I was not, I didn't have it fully in my mind how I'd be able to fully interact with the team, seeing that it's the judging sessions were over Zoom and the poster sessions were over Remo, and the platforms were so new to me. But I think it went really well, and actually the discussions that I had in the judges' room on Remo were really fun, and I made some friends through those judges' rooms. You see, even if you say that you're really interested in learning more about iGEM projects, nothing would make you sit down and just deeply go through an iGEM project's wiki and poster and video unless you're actually judging it, and that's how you establish a rapport with the team and how you establish a rapport with their project. And so I think that.
What would you guys say to the teams because I feel like somehow when you are in iGEM and maybe you don't get the medal that you were expecting or the prize that you were expecting, you get angry at the judges, and it's like you go against the judges. You as judges, what do you say to the teams actually? I would like to hear from all of you. Maybe Paul, you can tell us. What would you say to the teams? Do you have anything to say?
I don't know. That's a difficult one. We just try and sort of be as fair as we can and stick to the guidelines that we're given. For the medals, you do decide on a medal, but for the prizes, it's just worked out from the online sort of ballot system. So judges don't really have, we don't have any direct say in who wins those prizes. I would say, I think that everybody, we'd like to be able to give, the best human practices to lots of different teams. I think it's really good now that we've got the nomination system, so you can see, if you were up there and you got close. But it's disappointing for those teams. But you're up against, some really amazing work and some really amazing projects. I don't think it means that your work or your project was any less. It's just that some of the work that teams do is really amazing. And
yeah, I know that feeling all too well. I know the feeling of because I was on both ends, both on the end of the team that got a medal that they felt they wanted a little bit more, and then I was in the seat of the judge who had to fairly evaluate what other teams and what the project looks like and go through the medal criteria. And judges actually do show a lot of leniency, even though teams like to think that they don't, but they do. But yeah, and so eventually it's a matter of having the giant jamboree itself serve as a big celebration for the effort that you've put in throughout the entire season. It's not just about a medal. I know the feeling of a medal or of a prize is something that you're looking forward to, coming back home with something. But then again, just think that you worked for an entire year and now you're here at this event with these people, whether it be online. There were how many thousand people who were tuned in for the same online event last year, or how many thousand people were at Behinds the year before it. And so this is the celebration that you want, just the fact that you were able to tap into this huge pool of resources and talent and network and connections. All of this is just a celebration that you've been able to stand through a wiki freeze and a poster deadline and a presentation and just put it all together and just show up. So just showing up is an accomplishment in and of itself. And I do understand how it feels, but also think of the fairness aspect of things and judges are a valuable resource. So I was, in comparison to most of the judges that are in the judging pool, I feel that I'm really young in comparison to them, and I'm always in awe when I went into the judging sessions last year and found the people who were with me, how experienced they were and how diverse they were and the amount of knowledge they bring to the table. So just make sure that you use your time with the judges very well. Don't just consider it as if they were just checking boxes in order to give you a medal, yes or no, but just consider that time, try to make use of it, and yeah, don't blame the judges, please.
Yeah, well, I think once the ceremony is over, the only way we communicate with the teams is via the comments that we have written into the ballot, right? So we don't get to meet them face to face and give our comments, and we are also we don't using the social platform to kind of share what our thoughts are before the jamboree is over. So that means actually we have to put in a good efforts to communicate as to what we like, what we did not like, or maybe not in the like, but what could have been better. So with a constructive criticism. So that's the kind of the way we communicate with the teams. And of course, I may imagine that sometimes some teams find it unfair or they don't get the comments that they were expecting. But I can tell that there is no bias. And one thing that I find it really difficult is that there were so brilliant projects, and it feels like the whole thing just feels unfair. That there are so many brilliant projects put in competition against each other. Because I always feel that I wish that, I don't know, a good amount, a quarter of these entire number of projects would lead to continue. As academics, we do look for ways to develop projects and pursue them. But these brilliant teams in really short time frame, for a period that we would use academic research of 3-4 years, you would put into where would they get in 3-4 months. It is impressive.
Which final message or advice would you give the teams, especially when it comes to this part of convince the judges? Like, what would you say to the teams?
Don't bury the results, make them visible easily, because we have to spend quite a bit of time going through the wikis. I mean, of course, when we are at the scene, when we have the venue or the jamboree running, then we can ask and find maybe the teams. But we also do read quite a bit up front before we come to the jamboree. So maybe if I have to give one suggestion to the teams, make things visible, don't hide or bury, don't appear them that they are, that you have done things that you have done. Just please be honest and make things easily accessible in a friendly way, so that you make judges' life easier.
I mean, judging's not a black box. So the judging handbook's online every year. Teams can go and read that and can learn a lot from that. I think on how to really effectively communicate their work to the judges and to the public as a whole. We are just interested people reading a wiki or listening to a presentation. So I'd make sure you read that and try and make your projects, as Rami said, as accessible as possible.
I see that teams sometimes get really stuck in their attempts to use a lot of big scientific jargon, or to try, for example, another way is take on a lot technically in terms of design, or in terms, for example, for the video presentation, when they put in a lot of effort into the technical and they didn't focus a lot about the content itself and how they deliver the message. So just try not to go as fancy and as technical. Do not waste a lot of time with the fancy and technical stuff, and just focus on delivering a clear and obvious message. And also document your efforts. If you didn't get a result in the lab, we want to know. Don't just keep that to yourself and say, no, it's a failure, I'm not going to document it. Actually, no. Sometimes it's this documentation process, and it's the lack of results that you report is actually what gets you there, because you were honest and you said you did some troubleshooting, you went after what went wrong. And so all of this is really important to us as judges, to see that you put in the work, even though it didn't get the exact result that you had anticipated earlier, but you put in a lot of work, and we would like to know that.
We want teams to be able to build on projects that other teams have started. It's an essential part of iGEM is carrying those projects on, and a huge part of that is reporting negative results. The more we can get that out there, the more that we can have scientists doing that as a matter of course. I think it's going to help these projects move forward.
So, thank you very, very much, Rami, Paul, and Hannah, for your time. It was a pleasure to be here with you, to hear your stories, your experiences, and so it's nice. It kind of makes me to want to be a judge again soon. And well, thank you very much. Thank you everyone who is watching us right now, and see you in the next one. Well, that was a really nice session with the judges. Remember to follow their advice and everything's going to be fine. If you have some questions or something, be sure to join the Zoom room. And before continuing to our next session, we have a guest who you have seen several times today already, Guilherme. Hey!
Yay, I'm back. Yeah, so before I start talking about the amazing announcement I have for you, what is the next session about? So we can start the countdown.
True. So the next session is about the mentorship program. So if you are a team who is participating in iGEM for the first time, you may be interested in this session. So stay tuned and stay in the live stream.
Okay, so Nemanja, can we start the countdown? And here we go. In English, please. 10,
10,
9,
9,
8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go! Vamos!
And now, before we actually go to the next session about mentorship program, actually I coordinated the mentorship program with Camilo in 2018, so that's a very exciting session to hear about. But before we actually go to that session, let me share with you the project I'm actually working on this year, and actually said countless times in this very short sentence. So let me introduce iGEM TV. So last year during the Giant Jamboree, you watched it, iGEM TV. We broadcasted 56 hours. It was a lot of time talking about iGEM, the future of Symbio, the project. We had commentators, hosts. Caro was there as well for many hours. I think you were the host that was there for the. Yeah.
Maybe, but it was really fun, I must say.
And now the iGEM TV is back, and we are expanding the program for 2021. So on iGEM TV, we will have several shows. We have iGEM Talk Show, where I will receive guests. Some of them you saw earlier today. We have our iGEM around the globe, right, Caro? You will be leading this project.
Yeah, I will be working on this project where we'll be interviewing some teams and like from other years, and they will be talking about their experience, and it will be super fun actually.
Super cool. Yeah, we will have iGEM News. We have a show dedicated to the Design League that is part of the Opening Weekend Festival too. We'll have a show about movies. A lot of different ideas, stuff. A lot of cool stuff is coming up. And I would like to share with you our promo video. Nemanja, go! Last year, we launched iGEM TV during the 2020 Virtual Giant Jamboree, broadcasting 56 hours of live content, sharing some of the outstanding stories of our community. This season, iGEM TV is back! Here's a little glimpse of what we are preparing.
I always want to do a bunch of different stuff, and that's okay, because I think you can make really interesting contributions to the world that way.
I think there should be more ways to do that, and more ways to engage with different peoples.
You know, you're going to go off and you're going to talk at the UN and you're going to do all these things, and it's going to be incredible, but don't forget about, the little guy.
Hello everyone, my name is Somadeep and I'll be hosting a brand new show on movies and synthetic biology. Make sure to check it out on iGEM TV.
Thank you very much, Caro, for having me. If you are interested on iGEM TV, you can follow us on social media. You can see our website, tv.igem.org. Check it out. We have some very, very cool launchings, premiering very soon. So thanks. Have a great session.
Hello everyone, welcome to this other session of the Opening Weekend Festival. In this session, we are going to be talking about the iGEM mentorship program. And for this, I have two guests, Nanan and Chris from the mentorship program. Let's actually tell to our audience what is the mentorship program about.
This program started a few years back as a way for iGEMers who had experience on iGEM teams to help iGEMers with less experience with potential challenges that they might not have anticipated. We found that having mentors for teams was really helpful, not only because the mentor could help the team address things that they might not have anticipated, but also because mentors serve as an example of what happens after iGEM.
We have concluded our first round of our mentor-mentee pairings, but Chris, we've decided to extend that, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We do plan to have a second round 1 week from now on May 24th. So all applications that are in by that round will be paired with mentors for one-on-one mentorship. Although we encourage mentors to apply at all times of the year, because you can be assigned as what we like to call a consulting mentor, where you will simply be able to contribute your expertise whenever you're available, but you won't be obligated to have regular meetings with the team or otherwise have a narrow one-to-one relationship with any specific team. Simply be available and you can make a difference.
Yeah, so actually I have another question, and I'm sure that this is a question that many people are like wondering right now. So what will a team expect after being paired with a mentor?
I'll talk a little bit about that. So first things first, we have a document that goes over this in detail, but I'll just cover some of that right now. So mentors, first of all, are iGEM alumni. So they know about the ins and outs and nuances of the competition. If you are an iGEM team that is new or perhaps has many new members and doesn't feel prepared to confront the nuances of iGEM or just would like someone with a lot of experience, then the mentor will be great for you. They can tell you how to get medals. They can tell you, how to fill out your forms on time. But of course, in addition to that, the mentors are all iGEMers with iGEM related skills, meaning they're synthetic biologists or maybe human practices experts. Some of them know a lot about wikis. That's a very in-demand skill among our mentors. And, they can be very helpful along all of these areas. All of our mentors are unique, and we try to pair mentors with teams based on the unique skills that teams need and that mentors can provide. We also pair mentors with teams based on their regions.
That's really nice. And I mean, I'm sure so teams that are watching us right now, if you would like to be paired with a mentor, if you have some questions about human practices or how to make the presentation or how to make the wiki, be sure to apply to the mentorship program. And I assure you that it will be a really nice experience.
And I think we see some questions rolling in right now. So if you guys want to join us in our Q&A session right after our interview with Carolina, please join us.
No, thanks you guys for being here and sharing about the mentorship program with all of our audience. And as Nana said, if you have any questions, be sure to join the Zoom room after this session. And well, thank you a lot for being here. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to our audience. See you in the next session. So, if you would like to keep knowing about the mentorship program, be sure to join the Zoom room. Otherwise, you can stay in the live stream where now we are going to have it. This is actually my biggest session with the biggest amount of guests. I have 9 guests for this session, and it's because we're going to be talking about something big: team meetups and collaboration. So let's start now the countdown. So you decide now either you want to go to the Zoom room and be talking about the team mentorship program, about the mentorship program, or you would like to join us and talk about meetups and collaborations. So hello everyone, welcome to this session in which actually I'm really excited because I have a lot of people here. I think it's my biggest session from the Opening Weekend Festival, and this is because we are going to talk about teen meetups and collaborations. Year by year, a lot of teams organize meetups in order to interact with other iGEM teams, and from there we actually get a lot of collaborations between teams, or teams get to know each other during different events or sessions or something, and they decide to collaborate during iGEM. So for this, we have a lot of people who are going to talk about the team meetups and collaborations, and one of our first guests is Nemanja, who is going to talk us a little bit about the Spring Festival.
So exactly 2 years ago, my team and I organized a meetup, the iGEM Spring Festival in Bonn, Germany. This was obviously in the before COVID times, as you can see here by the unmasked and non-distanced people. So usually iGEM meetups happen in summer, but we wanted to have a meetup at the start of the season so that it would be sort of like a kickoff to iGEM, and it was really awesome. We had more than 30 European teams join us, and we had this joint accommodation hostel for everyone, so it was really nice to go back there after the conference. We had a team song, my team performed at the start, everyone sang along, it was really fun, and we also had asked all teams to bring an introduction video. And they all did. This was before iGEM actually started doing videos in the competition, by the way. And after the conference, there was actually a huge festival next to our venue, so everyone went there and watched fireworks. But it was also really hard. We had spent probably around 4 to 5 months preparing it. In the end, it was worth it, but it did include a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of organization and a lot of emailing and all of that. We wanted to do a second edition of this meetup last year, but then COVID happened, and then I started working also at iGEM HQ. So the idea of the iGEM Opening Weekend Festival was born, and it was really something that evolved from my experience organizing the iGEM Spring Festival in 2019.
And well, I mean, last year, as you just mentioned, we had this big challenge regarding COVID, and things really changed. And actually, so last year we had the German meetup that Team Marburg organized, and we have Vinga and Janine who were part of the organizers of this meetup. So can you tell us a little bit about how it was? Did you plan it from the beginning to be online? How was it?
Hi. First of all, no, we didn't plan on it being online at all. So we really planned on it being on site, and we were really looking forward to that. And then it started to dawn on us slowly that wouldn't be possible. So in the beginning, we thought maybe if we push it back a little bit further into the year, then maybe we could still do it on site. And we started to realize that wouldn't be possible. So we kind of learned and adjusted along the way. And I think for us being the first, it was the first time for us doing it online, and overall it was just kind of new, and I think we kind of managed okay.
The thing was that sadly the Marburg team wasn't allowed to attend in iGEM in 2020, so everybody who had really fun to still do something, we started to just keep the meetup going, and everybody could really do stuff on it, and it was a lot of fun preparing it. So also to have a little iGEM experience in this year.
It was so much work. I don't want to downplay it. It was really a lot of work. So having it come together in the end and working almost smoothly was just very, very rewarding.
And well, I followed a lot everything what was going on in Europe last year, because I was ambassador to Europe, but because I am based in Europe. But of course, as Mexican, I was always trying to follow things that was happening in Latin America. And for this, we have Daniela, who was one of the organizers of the Hispan meetup.
Yes, actually, on my team, we had seen there were some traditional meetups, such as I think Calgary's team make one meetup every year. And here in Mexico and in Latin America, we didn't have a meetup, and we wanted to make it a tradition. We weren't thinking about a virtual meetup because COVID hasn't started when we started thinking of the meetup. And then the quarantine started, and we were okay, now we can't do anything because we can't travel and the flights are canceled and everything, so let's cancel the meetup. And then we talked to some ambassadors, and they told us hey, you can go virtual, you know that? and we were like, okay, maybe. So we decided to make it virtual, so we don't have like the flights issues, and the money is not a problem anymore. So let's make it for all Latin American teams. It was pretty hard because as I think most teams, we had an experience making virtual things. So we had to learn like how to use platforms, how to send a lot of emails, how to contact the speakers and everything, because personally I hadn't organized an event before. So it was a lot of fun. I didn't sleep a lot of days, but it was pretty cool. I We were pretty nervous. We were like, okay, we have to make it like go pretty well. So we had like 10 Zoom calls before the closure. We were like, as Caro said, prepared for everything. Like, if there's a storm and then all the country is without internet, what will we really like thought of all the possibilities, because we really wanted to make it good, and it was pretty cool. At the end, like, you are tired and you want to sleep and everything, but when you are in the meetup, even if it's virtual, it's pretty cool. You're like, I was like crying because it's like it's finally here, it's finally a thing. After all these months of planning, we did it.
Something also that you mentioned was about like this supportiveness that it like it's a ship between teams when you organize a meetup. And actually, well, we have like also this really big meetup conference, and like that shows a lot of support between teams in Canada, where a lot of Canadian teams get together and support each other during iGEM. So now we have Amy from Canada who can tell us a little bit about iGEM. CGEM, sorry.
Yeah, so really in Canada, we're a very, very big country, and all of our teams are scattered kind of on the ends of the place. But there's a lot of other provinces that are stuck far in between that may not actually get the chance to join a lot of these conferences. And so they're kind of isolated a little bit. And we actually started forming a network of all our Canadian teams actually at the physical jamborees in Boston. And we formed the network that is CGEM, or so Canadian Gem, in other words. And we've always envisioned kind of, being able to meet up nationally, because we've heard of all the European versions and the Eurasian meetups, and we were so inspired. And then COVID happened, which kind of sucked for everybody, and it really put a hinder on a lot of people's work. And so kind of inspired a little bit by Team Marburg, because we actually ended up reaching out to Team Marburg, I believe to Janine and to Vinka as well, to learn about their, sort of network-wide international sort of conference that they were hosting, because we on the Canadian side wanted to do something as well. And so through the community, through both iGEM alumni, so folks that had actually graduated past their iGEM teams, now more or less played advisor roles, or stuck within the community, plus the current 2020 teams actually started coming together. And through a lot of meetings, and a lot of sweat and a lot of hard work, we were able to string together a 2-day conference. And this not only included the work of iGEM teams and the collaboration of that, but we were also able to throw in and make it an actual wider national event for students and trainees.
Nice. And well, I think like something that always come from the meetups are like, and one of the nicest and important things about this is like teams get to know each other. Teams get to know what others are working on, and like if their project may be similar, or like, hey, they're using the same bacteria that I want to use, or hey, they have the same goal that I have. And actually it was also the case of like 3 teams that we have here. So we have Alisa from Team Kaiserslautern, we have Franca and Philip from Team Darmstadt, and we have Barbara from Team Verno, who made like this really nice collaboration last year. So I actually remember that Alisa was always sending me messages like, hey, can we borrow your sim room so that we can meet for our collaboration? I was like always like, sure, amazing. I was always super happy when I was receiving this message, because I knew something big was going on here. So maybe Alisa, you can start talking, telling us how this collaboration started.
Actually, the collaboration began with the ambassador meetings that you guys put on for us at the very beginning. After the pandemic hit really full on, the Zoom ambassador meetings were a real godsend. And I was very, very lucky to hear so much amazing advice from so many different teams. And after a while, I started noticing, very interesting projects and meet all these team members who were working on wastewater-driven projects, which was kind of the general field that we were in. And so it started off with just kind of reaching out to these folks. And I think that was kind of like a weird blessing in disguise with this pandemic, is that for a lot of European teams, we really wouldn't start collaborating until maybe we met in person later in the year. We wouldn't be as active in communicating with each other. But with Zoom and with the ability to communicate, because of the forced restrictions, I feel like we had a lot more communication more regularly online, and that helped really foster a lot of collaborative projects. And so every meeting we would start off with a very strict kind of schedule where we would do updates, and then we would talk about ongoing collaborations. We'd ask questions, like if somebody was running into troubles that they wanted to troubleshoot, or just anything general, like when all of the iGEM guidelines came out about the video and all this stuff, we worked together and bounced ideas off of each other. It was really just such a massive benefit, for at least for our team. I know hopefully for the other teams, to hear how everybody was working through. And we were very fortunate to end up creating a smaller collaboration where we were able to compare different water treatment plants between the different countries, which was a real benefit for us, at least in our implementation.
So basically, you had these wastewater treatments, wastewater treatment meetings, where you had around 8 teams attending to these meetings, and then you had this smaller collaboration between Kaiserslautern, Stuttgart, and Darmstadt. So maybe first, Barbara, you can tell us how this attending to these meetings regarding wastewater treatment projects was helpful for your team.
So it was very helpful for us because it was actually our first year in iGEM, and our team wanted to participate because Nemanja told us about iGEM. So that's when we decided, okay, we really have to try this. And then we sort of looked at the website and tried to follow the instructions that were there. And then finally we joined the ambassador call with Carolina. And there we finally met with the human part of iGEM, and that's where we really got into the community, and that's where we really got the energy to really push for a great project. And we also, it really helped us to understand the rules, to feel that we are not alone in it.
So the meetings for the wastewater treatment were very helpful to find out how wastewater works in other countries, because if you ever try to look it up online, it's not that easy to really get an overview about that. And so that was really helpful. And of course, our collaboration with Kaiserslautern and Stuttgart was also like gold.
Generally, I can just encourage other teams as well to just reach out to other teams and get in contact to them, because last year, especially with Kaiserslautern and Stuttgart, we saw that every team has certain points on mind in a field or in a project, and other teams have also other points in mind which we just didn't saw. For example, I know we got a really good expert from Kaiserslautern for a legal part of our project, and so it helped us really much about the year. And I also agree with Alyssa that it's sad that we cannot meet in person, but it also that you're doing everything online. It's so easy way to contact and communicate with other teams, and it has a high how do I say that? You can be really fast. So for example, we just wrote teams on Instagram, for example, hey, do you want a collaboration? And next week we had a meeting with them.
Yeah, I think I said it a lot of times last year, but somehow even thought we were having this COVID-19 situation, I felt more connected with a lot of people than I maybe would have had if this didn't happen. Now maybe we can now go for a last round of advice from all the people here for the teams.
How he already said, it's more work than you anticipate, and but it's definitely all worth it in my opinion. So it's a lot of work, but it really pays off. And I think my advice would be to start everything much earlier than you would think you need the time to get something accomplished.
Think of your motivation, because of course you can like make a collaboration out of a meetup, but a meetup is more than a thing to report on your wiki or your poster or your presentation, because I think in general on iGEM the most grateful or the most important thing you have is like the networks you can make, like all the people you can know, all the things you can learn also. So if you are thinking about organizing a meetup just because you think you have to, because you are participating on a team and everything, that's not like the right reason. Try to think about everything that a meetup could bring to you and to other iGEMers from other countries and even from other I don't know, continents or iGEM alumni. So yeah, think about all the pretty things that can come after the meetup and the friends you can make, and not just like it's something I'm gonna write down on the wiki. And when you think of a meetup on that way, you have like all the motivation you need to make it possible, even if you have to stay awake at 3 a.m. like planning the conferences and everything.
I have two pieces of advice. The first one is know your platforms. So if you know your platform really well, like you do test runs, because that's what we did. We did like 5 to 6 test runs like a week before we did it, just to make sure we knew our platform well and have a backup system in case something fails, and then you have a backup system to send everybody to. But my second piece of advice is a little more wholesome in the sense of being, if you have an idea for a meetup, for a collaboration, just to go for it, and to not fear the possibilities of what could happen, because you don't know until you try. So to often just, if you have the idea, to pursue it and to take action, whether that be taking that first step in sending out that email or contacting someone through an Instagram, message, or whatever the case may be, is to just take that first step and to try. And eventually, with the right motivations, with the right resources, you'll be able to achieve whatever collaboration or conference, if you wanted, you'll be able to make it all happen.
So one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have would be, don't just have that collaboration be the one big thing that you talk about. Make it a relationship. Make it so that you're talking with these teams regularly, that you're thinking of small things that you can do together to make that communication stronger and make your projects really elevate each other. If you take that one-off project and say, oh, I'm done, I did it, and that's a check, then you really missed a really big opportunity with iGEM. I think that's one of the great things about this community, is that we can really like create these networks of resources and ideas and really elevate each other through that communication.
Just take everything you can from the collaboration and enjoy it. And from the page, you can watch the dedicated page on iGEM website. There's a page dedicated for collaboration. So if you don't have any ideas, you can contact the teams that write their ideas there. The same goes for the global Slack, and you can also follow all the teams on Instagram and see what their projects are about. And there you can find your possible collaboration partners. So look for collaborations and don't be afraid to reach out.
So my advice to this year's iGEM teams would be take action and communicate, because you can like get easily in contact with teams nowadays online, because iGEM is a place where you are learning and where you're experiencing, and they will be very happy to hear from you.
There's always ways, and there's a lot of people who can help you to make the meetups, to make the collaborations possible. You can contact other teams. You have the ambassadors to help you out. You have people from after iGEM. There's a lot of people who can help you to make collaborations and meetups possible. So again, guys, thank you very much. It was really lovely to see you, to see a lot of you again, because last year I was seeing you a lot of times during meetings and so, and to see you again and to hear from you and even recall like all these experiences, it's really nice. So thank you very much. Thank you to all our viewers, and see you in the next session. Bye. Wow, that was an amazing session. I mean, I think like we could talk hours and hours sharing stories about the meetups, about our collaborations. So be sure to join the sermon if you would like to keep talking with our guests. So now we go with Sishan. Hey Sishan, how's it going?
Hey Carolina, that was such a great event. Now it's we've talked about sharing and collaboration and open science. But what about distribution? I remember when I mentioned that we threw out, like iGEM threw out all the DNA samples. What happens next? Join me at the next session where I am joined by Vinu Selvaraja and Drew Endy as we talk about the future of iGEM distribution and sharing.
But well, let's go to the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go. Welcome to another iGEM Opening Weekend Festival session. Today's session is the future of distribution and sharing, and I'm joined by the amazing Drew, Endy, and Vinu. Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. The first question is, what's happening with iGEM distribution, Vinu?
Last year was quite the year. We actually had to, I think, send out the distribution by request. We only had a few of them. This year, we were able to manufacture copies. We are sending out our distribution. It's over 1,500 parts. They're sequence confirmed. They are, historically well-used parts. They're well documented. We're hoping there are things that are really interesting in there to use. We're excited to be able to send this out to everyone. And we're hoping it's going to be useful. We know not everyone's going to be able to get in the lab, but the distribution is very symbolic. It is the things that teams have created. It is parts that go on to be used often.
Yeah, awesome. And what are we asking teams to do about distribution? Like, what's new?
Yeah, so we are trying something very new this year, which is we want a dialogue with all of the teams. We want to hear from them about what they like about the distribution, what they wish was different about the distribution, and kind of the, what they can dream of, what they wonder the distribution can be. And some of this can go into the details, like, what are the key things that, they wish they had at their hands? What are the key parts? But it can also be more abstract because we want to do something really new.
So, Drew, I'll come to you. Why are we going through all this trouble?
Who needs a distribution really? If you had $1 billion laboratory and you could prototype arbitrary amounts of genetic designs and just throw spaghetti, so to speak, against the wall and see if any of it works, you don't really need a distribution, right? You're just throwing money at a problem. But the reality is, like, most of the world isn't close to that. And most of the problems biotechnology could solve can be solved locally by people who understand what the problems are and so on. But really, biotechnology isn't accessible to most, right? And so what the iGEM distribution historically represents, from one sort of, if you zoom out, deeper perspective, is it's the very early stage of prototyping what I would call a dictionary of words, but in this case, it's genetically encoded functions, and a grammar for putting it together, right? So think about, in English, right, the Oxford English Dictionary. If you wanted to know where the definitions, you'd go there, right? So the iGEM distribution is the beginning of a dictionary of genetically encoded functions, and the rules for putting stuff together, starting with the long ago BioBrick standard, is the beginning of a grammar. It's very immature, but it shows the way. And so what's happening, why we're asking for the I like, I wish, what if feedback, is starting in 2022, we're making a new distribution. And we're building distribution 2.0 from the ground up with the best available ideas and the best available content so that the iGEM community has best available biotechnology. And that's what's going on.
Yep. And this comes back to like the why. Really, will it be worth it?
Yeah, I mean, who can use biotechnology to solve problems, right? Historically, when you think about biotechnology, what we have is industrial biotechnology, big biotechnology in big tanks, that very few people can benefit from. But this iGEM project from 2015, the Paris Betancourt team, looking at vitamin supply and nutrition in India, taught many of us that the people who could benefit from biotechnology are the people who could practice with biology where they are. And when we think about the iGEM community as it is, but also going forward, like imagine an iGEM community that's 10 times bigger, that's 100 times bigger, that's 1,000 times bigger. How are all those people going to reliably use, responsibly use, safely use biological parts and put them to good use? We're not going to tell them how to do that, but working together with everybody, the iGEM community could pay it forward and enable people all over the world to solve the problems they have with best in class, best in world biotechnology. One thing that's really interesting is nobody else is going to develop this biotechnology. The first world biotechnology corporations are going to develop biotechnology that works for them. The distributed global biotechnology community in a complementary way, not a competitive way, complementary way, is going to have to develop its own best-in-class capacities. Yeah. And the iGEM 2.0 distribution is aimed right in the middle of that.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask, when you say when we started the slide, you mentioned industrial biotechnology. And by that, do you mean, I guess, like big pharma companies or?
Well, I mean, I want to be careful. I'm not meaning to trigger like it's this versus that. It's definitely that. It's a yes and thing. So what's the difference between an industrial computer and a personal computer or a handy phone, right? It's who can practice computing where for what purpose. Okay. And right now, what we have is industrial biotechnology that typically supplies about 2 billion people on Earth with the things they need, and everybody knows there's like a lot more than 2 billion people on Earth. The majority of people can't access the things they need, whether it be essential medicines or nutrition or other stuff. And the promise of biology, right, naturally, is it's distributed manufacturing. You make the stuff you need where you are. And so building biotechnology that works on a distributed basis is distinct from biotechnology that works in a centralized industrial basis.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm just trying to, as you're saying that, I was just trying to imagine, you said, imagine if the iGEM community was like 1,000 times bigger. And that would that's, hopefully one day that's why we're doing all this. One of the reasons.
I mean, I don't want to belabor it, but here's a statistic that blows my mind. Yeah. In the year 1300 in England, how many people could read and write English? Roughly, I'm told 5%.
Okay.
In the year 2021 on Earth, how many people can read and write a computer programming language? Never mind a DNA programming language. Let's just talk about Python. 1%, 80 million people at most. So we think we're in modernity, but no, we're in like pre-Middle Ages when it comes to technologies. And if we care to have a flourishing civilization built with biology, we've got to like leapfrog and enable people to build with biology.
Vinu, I wanted to ask you, how did all this get started?
This is all about enabling biotechnology and the communication of biotechnology, and the foundational work of Tom Knight on the BioBrick RFC10, right? What did that let people do, and what did that let everyone do? It let them take things and put them together in a very sensible way. You could communicate your designs, you could communicate how you're going to put together your things really well, and I can go into the history of iGEM and how it helped enable communication of parts. But as the foremost competition, as the huge supporters of standard biological parts, I can use the example of B0034. That was, I think, added to the registry in 2003. That then gets sent out in 2004 to people participating in like the MIT competition, which then becomes iGEM in I think 2005. That first distribution had B0034. That distribution was, I think, 2 plates. It was probably around 500 part samples, and what that let people do is it takes those parts, it lets them create, the designs that they want, the devices that they want, and then they contributed it back. And that's when we start to see the distribution grow, the use of standard biological parts really grow across iGEMers. I think in 2009 or 2008, we sent out everything in the repository. When I say we, that was before my time, but they sent out everything, and they sent everything out on filter paper. But then they took iGEM took the next step, which was making sure what they were sending out, at least the samples, were good. So the samples were correct. So the parts and the samples matched up well. And from those lessons, we started focusing more on, okay, we want to send out really good samples, and turning into, we want to send out really good parts. And so we saw a little bit of a narrowing of the distribution. What happened is we saw better parts and better samples, and we saw well-documented parts, well used, to the point now that, like, when you look at B0034 on the registry, I think it's used over 10,000 times.
Oh, wow.
So it is
since 2003.
Since 2003, it might be close to 14,000 times, but
okay.
it's a lot. It's the symbol. It exemplifies where we kind of started, how far we've gone along, and you know what, B0034 as an RBS, that might not work in all of the designs, right? That we know now that things, we are at a better place with RBSs and what we want them to do. But as an example, that's where we started, and where can we go from there?
Yep. And Drew, I wanted to ask, isn't what you're talking about like really maybe a bit impossible? Like, what are some of the challenges?
Yeah, it could be, but I don't think so. And let me try and explain why. But acknowledge that the challenges are severe. So, Tom's original BioBrick assembly standard is about assembly. It's a standard for assembly. And when you're putting things together, you have to physically put them together. But also, of course, there's functionally putting them together. Does the composite object, when you put it together, behave as you expect? Think about it this way. If you have a nut and a bolt, it's the screw threads, right? And the screw threads matching that let you physically couple the two objects together. That's physical assembly. But when you pull on the nut, when it's so threaded onto the bolt, does it stay tight or does it come flying off? Right? That's functional assembly, functional composition. And so for a language and grammar to work reliably, you need to enable both physical assembly and functional composition with 100%. Right? So if we want a reliable, free to use language, we've got to make both physical assembly happen, which is becoming less tricky because construction of DNA is getting ever easier. But functional composition, does the composite object behave as you wish or expect, is incredibly tricky sometimes. So going in the time machine, Vanu, those initial distributions were not in plates; they were in freezer boxes, right? In vials, right? It's crazy. And then we tried that filter paper thing, which was a nightmare. But cool, it was cool. But so here is a neat article from the New York Times. It's 15 years old, and great scientist and colleague Frances Ardle at Caltech saying there's no such thing as a standard component, a standard biological part, because everything works differently in biology depending on the environment, the context. And she's right. It's like a really good observation. The expectation you'll be able to put things together, it'll work, is like as you expect, like not reality.
It's not magic.
It's never going. And Vanu was talking about ribosome binding sites that initiate translation, and I select two examples here, drawing on the work of Vivek Mutalik and others. So just check out the top, right? So the top sequence has got a ribosome binding site in red, and then the downstream sequence is some of the open reading frame for the protein that's going to be translated. And I've lined it up so you can see that the coding sequence, that ACC in red down below and the UUA, those are perfectly capable of interacting in a way with some of the sequences up above, like the ACC on the left pairs with the UAA and so on. So you're going to get this weird stem loop structure potentially. However, that same ribosome binding site sequence down below, the UAA, GGA, GGU, if you have a different gene of interest with a different open reading frame, GAC-CCC, there's less propensity for base pairing. And so you could have your favorite ribosome binding site and use it with one gene and you get no translation, but you use the same ribosome binding site with a second gene and you get lots of translation. And so functional composition, total failure, right? And so that's evidence in support of Professor Arnold's statement.
Yep.
But if we go to the next, right, like note this is 2006 and we're in 2021. And for example, on the bottom left is what we call the bicistronic design for translation initiation elements. This comes from the BioFab project we did with Berkeley up in Emeryville with Vivek Mutalik leading. And basically, this is an example for how to make translation initiation elements that work with your favorite protein, regardless of the coding sequence of your favorite protein. And that's the evidence shown in the plot in the top left, where we can get composition working with greater than 90% reliability between translation initiation and protein synthesis. On the bottom right, just jump over there. Hey, has anybody heard of this thing? Have you, Zishan, I gotta ask, have you heard of CRISPR?
Oh, it rings a bell.
Right. So it does, because it's a nice example of abstraction working. It's a nice example of functional composition working. By changing the guide RNA, you can, with high reliability, not perfect reliability, but high reliability, cause proteins to interact with different sequences of interest on DNA. And I'm putting in the middle this idea of an abstraction hierarchy for organizing the complexity of biology at different levels, right? So CRISPR and Cas9 and guide RNA are sort of parts that are causing things to happen at the sequence level. Same with the translation initiation elements over on the left and getting reliable composition from parts up to devices. But as Vinu was mentioning devices earlier, like let's say you just want to switch, or you want a temperature sensor, or you want a color generator. Those are devices that are easier to describe. Like anybody on the street should be able to say, oh, it's a purple color generator or a banana odor generator. And what's also true and cool is we've figured out how to abstract parts into functional objects that are composable devices. And cherry picking something from the lab's work in 2013, where we made a logic family. It's not that our work is the cool thing. The cool thing is other people unrelated to us are reusing our stuff and it's working the first time. So I'm grabbing a paper from Tim Liu's lab over at MIT. And if you look at the acknowledgements of the paper, they're using our flippers and analog to digital converters and just getting them from the shelf and they work. So there's still a lot of hard work in front of us, but we have now approximately 15 years of existence proof of how to enable reliable functional composition. And I think the key thing as we're going forward, and Vinu will get to this at the end, I hope, we're not doing it only by ourselves. We're going to bring the whole world together to bootstrap the best-in-class technology, the best-in-class grammar, the world's dictionary for a language for partnering with life. Now's the time to do it, right? And I have to say this clearly, nobody else is going to do it. It's only the iGEM community that can catalyze this, because it's only the iGEM community that cares about enabling everybody everywhere to solve their problems with biotechnology locally. The rest of the incentive structure is to let big organizations solve biotechnology problems on behalf of other people. Nothing against that, but this is a complementary thing to do. It's very unique.
Yeah. It's a SynBio feature, and iGEM is going to shape it. And that leads me, Vinu, how is all this going to work?
Well, like as Drew was saying, I mean, we already have the test case for that. We know that iGEMers are like, they create new things, they take previous things, make them better or use them, and then they share it with other iGEMers. And that cycle has worked really well. But now we want to open it up to everyone. And we want this to be something that everyone can use. And we want it to be built around the needs of a global community. And we can go into the details later, but what that, how this starts is iGEM and Free Genes out in Stanford are going to be working together on the distribution 2.0. All of the samples, everything that is in it will be, under the universal open MTA. And we are going to make this both in terms of contributors and in terms of access. It's going to be made through and by a global community.
I just want to jump in and highlight one thing real quick. Vinu mentions the unilateral open MTA. Like Linda Kale and colleagues, have figured out how to enable us and the iGEM community to properly share and to pay forward and share and share and share and share. So what that means practically is we'll be able to give everybody in the iGEM community the iGEM distribution, and they'll be able to freely share that with other people. Now, that may have been happening on the down low previously. The significance of what Vinu's introducing and we can do now is we can make all of that happen with full fidelity in the open and full legal clarity, right? So significant administrative upgrades are complementing the technical upgrades behind iGEM Distro 2.0.
Amazing. And I think I think those were all the slides. And I just want to ask Vinu and Drew one last question. What would your message be so we have a lot of iGEMers watching this who are just starting up the projects. What's your message to the 2021 iGEM participants, mentors, PIs for this year?
I got two messages.
Please.
Number one, have as much fun as possible. Number two, please don't hold back. Tell us what you need, or tell us what you think the world needs in terms of the distribution. Because what we have is, for the first time, a systematic professional capacity to respond to that, right? And by definition, we can't do it. Vinu and I, we're working together on this already.
Yeah.
The two of us are just two people, right? We really need the iGEM community to lean in and tell us what the world needs, and then to pick it up and work with us, and together we can get this done.
Yeah. I just want iGEMers to kind of share their excitement about this. And really, we're looking at, at least in iGEM, this a big next step in how the iGEM Foundation kind of celebrates and supports iGEMers, but also how we kind of open ourselves up to everyone, and how everyone can really build genetic devices reliably. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope iGEMers tell us about that as well.
Yep. I feel we're living in, after experiencing this opening weekend festival, I really feel this is a new iGEM right now that we're in, and it's really exciting, and it's I completely agree. Have as much fun as you can. I'm pretty sure all the audience members right now will have a lot of questions, so let's break out to the Zoom breakout session where we'll be joined by, surprise, Drew and Vinu.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Joining us from New York, a message by iGEM's Grant Commission Chair, Kirsten Ellis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen, and I'm so excited to be here kicking off the opening weekend of the 2021 iGEM competition with you all. I'm thrilled to be working with iGEM this year. You know that science and engineering can be stressful under the best of circumstances. You're all tackling really challenging problems, and they take time and money. Now, we believe that you all are pioneers in synthetic biology, and we want to empower you to secure funding for your impactful projects addressing local and world problems, from climate change and healthcare to pandemic response and biomaterials. So this year, we at iGEM HQ are excited to announce a first-of-its-kind initiative through which we will be providing grants of $2,500 to 90 iGEM teams to help you take your project further than ever before. We're really grateful to the Frederick Gardner Cottrell Foundation for providing support for these grants. Now, specific selection criteria and timing for this grant will be announced soon, but much like the other folks you reach out to in your fundraising processes, we'll definitely want to hear your stories and learn about who's on your team, what you're working on, why it's important to your community and to the world, and how this funding will help your team reach their goals this year. We're also forming a new committee to help us make this happen. So if you're a PI, a mentor, or an advisor and you want to get involved, please get in touch. And in general, if you have questions about the grant or when you can apply, more information about this should be live on the 2021 iGEM website at 2021.igem.org very, very soon. We're really excited to work with you guys this year. Can't wait to see what projects you come up with. Bye.
Hello, everyone. There is one question that all of you must be wondering. How do we join the Giant Jamboree this year? There are still a few options for participating. One of them is online participation. Like last year, you will still be able to join, no matter where you are, no matter if you can travel or not. It will be accessible to everyone. There is something else new and exciting. To talk more about this, let's travel to Dorothy.
Hello, iDreamers! We heard from you in the ambassador course. The possibility of international travel is still uncertain. However, we still would like to attend some physical events, meet with other iDreamers wherever possible. Last year, a few teams were able to join the Jamboree watch parties in their backyard, in their school meeting rooms, or even in the conference centers in the regions. They could meet with other teams, talk about their projects, and celebrate the award ceremony together. We expect this will be possible for all of you this year. We have 43 iGEM ambassadors all over the world. We are planning the Jamboree parties of this year in the regions. They are local iGEM champions, and they will be hosting or supporting the satellite event of 2021 Giant Jamboree. These regional or national events would follow the main Jamboree program, but with additional regional features. They will be open to all iGEMers, the local institutions and organizations, and everyone who is interested in iGEM and synthetic biology. You could invite your families and friends to learn more about your projects. You could introduce your proposed solution to your local problem to the local communities in front of your poster. You could team up with other iGEMers to tackle a hackathon challenge. You could meet with stakeholders who's interested to work with you and implement your ideas into the real world.
Welcome back. So we're at the end of the day. What an amazing past 2 days it's been. I'm sure everyone had a lot of fun. We learned a lot, and we really hope you enjoyed it. Carolina?
It was an amazing opening weekend festival. I had a lot of fun. I'm sure like Sisha and Guillermo also had a lot of fun having these interviews, sharing with these stories with you, and I hope like it's a nice beginning of your iGEM journey. Remember that you can rewatch videos of everything. They are available already. So that's it. And finally, we have some messages. Guillermo, any final message?
Yeah, there is one final tale that I would like to share with everyone in our audience, with everyone today. I promise it will not be too long, Nemanja. Yeah, okay. So it is a short tale about braveness, imagination, stoicism. It's also about companionship, generosity, and amusement. It's a story made of effort and excellence, flavored by love and happiness. It's an ode to the future, describing the light of science dueling the darkness of the world. It's about exploring new horizons. I guess you already know, this is about you. This is your iGEM journey. I can't tell, I can predict what is going to happen. This is a story that you will need to write. And during the Giant Jamboree, I will meet with you again to talk, recap, and share your amazing journey with the world. Your adventure is just starting. You will create your own pathway, and I will be looking at the sky, searching for your castles up there.
And remember that in this iGEM journey, you are not alone. You have a whole iGEM community that is willing to help you. You have other teams with whom you can collaborate. You have iGEM ambassadors that you can ask help for. You have like a lot of people that are willing to help. So remember, like, you're not alone. You have this big community. Take most of it, like take advantage of it and enjoy it. Like really enjoy your iGEM journey that I'm sure is going to be amazing.
So all three of the hosts for this year, me, Jeremy, and Carolina, we're all iGEM alumni. And next year, you will be iGEM alumni and could be a host of the iGEM Opening Weekend Festival. So once again, make the most of this journey. We hope to see you around all the different events, all the amazing events we have planned for you this year. And that's all from us. Bye.
And for the final session of the day, we have a very, very special performance from your hosts. Let's go, guys! 1, 2, 3!
you've all been waiting for.
Taking part in the biggest synthetic biology competition in the world.
The work you have done and will continue to do is critical.
This is not the old iGEM. This is the future iGEM.
Hello there, virtual iGEM.
Hello, iGEMers.
Greetings to the iGEM community.
We're kind of separated, but still we find our ways to kind of come together and work on this project